kart in Sunday Thunder with Kia in gear.
Juan Montoya leads the field around here at Cleveland, starting from pole position here this afternoon. But Juan Montoya, the championship leader, has not had it all his own way, all easy this weekend.
The rookie is always close to the limit. On Friday morning, he overstepped it, collecting the wall in turn 8. But Montoya fought back, using every ounce of his talent and every inch of the racetrack. In qualifying yesterday, he earned his 4th pole of the season. There is no opportunity for testing in Cleveland, but Montoya already raced the circuit among his favorites.
Yeah, I liked it. I like it. It's very challenging. The most difficult corner is the only one that has a wall, so that's pretty tricky. I hit it yesterday. I nearly hit it today, but nearly doesn't count, so it's good.
So another pole position to add to his tally there for Juan Montoya, number 4 this season. And starting alongside the Colombian will be Gil de Ferran. Gil de Ferran, the winner of last weekend's race, of course, in Portland. A brilliant tactical victory. Can he do it again here in Cleveland? That win was an emotional one last week, and it was 3 years ago that he won here on the airport at Cleveland. He starts on that front row with Montoya. Second row, Michael Andretti and Brian Herter looking for an upturn in form.
Row 3, Roberto Moreno, another fine effort by Super Sub, and Patrick Carpone alongside him. Again, out-qualifying teammate Greg Moore on row 4, alongside Paul Tracy.
Row 5, Maurizio Guterman, and down there in 10th place, Dario Franchitti. He's had a lot of incidents this weekend. Christian Fittipaldi and Adrian Fernandez are on row 6.
Row 7, Cristiano De Mata, again the quickest Toyota qualifier, and Alonso Jr. On row 8, Jimmy Vasser and PJ Jones.
Helio Castro Neves is down in 17th on the grid. Alongside him, Scott Pruitt, and Tony Kanan's a long way down. He's 19th with Michel Jourdain alongside.
Row 11, the rookie driver Mimo Gidley and Max Papis. Very disappointing for Team Rahal this weekend. Row 12, Tazo Marquez in a Lola this weekend alongside Robbie Gordon.
Row 13, Richie Hearn and Walter Sales back out in the Eagle instead of Alex Barron. And on the last row, all on his own, is Luis Garcia Jr., the winner of the Indy Lights race here 12 months ago. So the car's already out behind the pace car. We've got a unique kind of circuit here, the runways, the taxiways. It's bumpy, it's very fast as well, up to 180 miles an hour on the straights. We've got a comparison now of qualifying between Juan Montoya and Michael Andretti. Let's just enjoy these pictures for a moment. This was up at the top end of the circuit coming out of turn 8. This was the wall that Montoya hit the other day. And you can see there was a correction going on.
Yeah, look at that. Great shots here. Michael Andretti on the right in the swift Ford Cosworth. Juan Montoya on the left, of course, in a Reynard Honda. And look at this quick chicane in turns 9 and 10. Great big correction there, particularly from Montoya, to get the maximum traction out of that corner and across the start-finish line there.
And Michael Andretti certainly felt that he'd given it his all, as he said on the radio. That's all she wrote, he said over the radio to his pit crew. And indeed, he pushed very hard indeed. Now, we're taking a look at the track here. Turn 1 is always a challenge. It funnels down into a tight corner on the exit. It's wide going in, not so much room coming out of the corner. Let's take a little bit of a wider look at the track itself now. Start-finish line down towards that turn 1. They head down into that tight corner, accelerating out through the kink at turn number 2, and then hard on the gas until they get to turns 3 and 4. A sequence of rights and lefts taking it over 100 miles an hour. Similar 5 and 6, but at the top end of the track, the long sweeping turn at 7 and 8, there's a concrete wall on the outside that can catch you out, and then the fast chicane 9 and 10 that brings you round to complete the lap.
And look how wide those runways are there. They're hugely wide, well over 100 feet, and as you say there, Ben, they funnel down into that turn 1. That's where the cars are now, getting ready on the final pace lap here. Always plenty of excitement in turn 1.
Michael Andretti running with an onboard camera here this weekend. He's a past winner of the event. In 1991 he won it, but he's always up front. He's pushed Alex Zanardi close here last year, couldn't quite make it. It could be a fuel consumption race. That will depend on the timing of yellow flags as ever. And there was the man that timed it so beautifully last week by winning at Portland. Looking on down the list, Roberto Moreno going through the track. Look at our race analysis. 2.106 mile temporary street course it's called because it's on an airfield. 100-lap race. Montoya on his 4th pole of the year. Fuel will be critical here. We're looking at a range of between 30 and 35 laps and looking to try and make it a two-stop race, but it is marginal.
Yeah, very, very marginal indeed, really. If the race goes all green, it's going to be awfully tough to make it on just 2 pit stops. So we'll see. Last week, of course, a tremendous strategy played by Gilles de Ferran. He opted to go flat out and try and pull out enough of a gap to make a third and final pit stop. He did. It worked to perfection. Brilliant victory by Walker Racing. What's going to happen this weekend? We'll find out in a couple of hours' time. It's going to be fun.
Alex Zanardi has won the last 2 races here at Cleveland. Before that, it was Gilles de Ferran in 1996. Team Ganassi have taken 4 pole positions in a row now, with one Montoya taking pole this weekend. Vassar starts a long way down, but Montoya is right up, and they will come now through the turns 9 and 10, a fast chicane when they're up to speed. They're in position to take the green flag. They accelerate out of this chicane, get themselves back into side-by-side formation, and then the start of the 100 laps will be underway, and we wait for it to go green. It is green, and away they go. Somebody was in trouble at the back. Montoya gets going, and he's clean into the first turn, but will the rest of them make it? A little bit of bumping and boring, but it looks pretty good.
It was Robbie Gordon who got hit sideways at the first, but that's Brian Herter who spun out. He qualified in 4th place, and Herter already a spinner.
And we've got cars on the move. Paul Tracy getting past Roberto Moreno. Good start that from Paul Tracy. Montoya is our race leader. Where is Franchitti? He's a bit further down the field. Castroneves trying to go around the outside of the gaggle of cars. He started well down the order as well, remember. So Castroneves starting 17th, trying to find some places. And Tracy has got himself up into 4th position. He started down in 8th.
A tremendous start there. There's Max Papizem who can move around the outside of PJ Johnson, trying to get back in the line there for turns 7 and 8. This is the east end of the racetrack. Very quick corner once they're properly up to speed, which are really not at that stage in the race. But look at Montoya, already a pretty good gap over Gilles de Ferran.
A pretty good gap, a huge gap. It's not even 1 lap yet. There's Franchitti. He's right behind Maurizio Guterman, looking for a way past as we have side-by-side action. Looked like Christian Fittipaldi trying to get a place back. He lost some places at the start. And across the line, at the end of the first lap, Montoya leads. Franchitti down the inside of Guterman. Has he made the move stick? Yes, he has. He didn't go in too quick. You will see some people trying that move and then running a bit wide on the exit. But I think Franchitti just judged that right, and he got past Guterman safely. And look at Tracy. Paul Tracy in the other Team Green car here, right behind Michael Andretti.
Great stuff there. And other people on the move. Tony Kanaan moved up 6 places from 20th to 14th. Al Unser Jr. right behind him. But there is that battle there. That is Michael Andretti holding on to 3rd place, his best qualifying effort of the season. And behind him is Paul Tracy. But they're in trouble then is Michel Jourdain Jr.
Yeah, Jourdain, he qualified 20th. That's one of his best starting slots of the year, but it looks as though he's thrown that away already with a quick spin at turn 3, but he keeps it running. No problems. We don't need to bring out the yellows. So there goes Michael Andretti running in 3rd position. We've got some of the cones and tyres that mark the apexes of the corner have been knocked onto the track. That is turn 3, I think, where Jourdain went off. Now that could cause a yellow, because that's obviously a problem.
And also in trouble once again is Elio Castroneves. He had engine problems all weekend. He had a problem this morning. They had to change the engine after the warm-up, and he was very slow coming out of the final chicane and lost a couple of places. He's come down at turn 1, and he's also passed by 3 or 4 other cars. Clearly problems for Elio Castroneves.
And Tracy's just got past Andretti, so Tracy's on the charge. Paul Tracy moves up into 3rd place. There he is, left-hand side of your picture, the Canadian. Paul Tracy, a winner this year already in Milwaukee. Really on a roll now. He's picked up his season. Last year was a disaster, and now he's got himself into 3rd place. He goes chasing after Gilles de Ferran, who's lying 2nd, and Juan Montoya, who leads this race by 1.8 seconds after just 2 laps. Montoya flying up front at the moment, but there's a very long way to go, and physically this race is extremely demanding. Luckily for the drivers, the temperatures are a little bit less than they were in qualifying, but it's still very, very warm out there, very humid. Now, there is Helio, and as you say, Jeremy, he's going very slowly now.
Yeah, what a shame there for Elio Castroneves. Nothing but heartbreak these last few races. Robbie Gordon on the dirt in front of us, coming off the final corner. That big sideways moment for him, but poor Elio Castroneves trailing in once again. And I say, for some reason, problems all weekend. He had a development Mercedes Ilmor engine for qualifying, and he had a few problems with that, although Ilmor for some reason denied it. And then this morning he had more problems. As I say, they had to change the engine before qualifying. We're not sure what the problem is now, but again, more heartbreak for Carl Hogan's hard-trying team.
Now look, you've got a battle going on here between Patrick Carpentier and Dario Franchitti. They are running 6th and 7th at the moment. Good run this for Patrick Carpentier. He's ahead of his teammate Greg Moore. Greg Moore is behind Guterman, who you saw get a bit stuck out of turn number 8 there. Greg Moore lies in 9th place. Adrian Fernandez is in 10th. Cristiano Damas at 11th, and Jimmy Vasser is in 12th. Now keep an eye on Jimmy Vasser in this race. He's always gone well here in Cleveland, particularly in qualifying. Had a bad run in qualifying yesterday. Didn't really get any clear running on track, and he may be able to make up some places in this race. We're looking further down the order. Tony Kanaan, Al Unser Jr. down there in 14th place, and then behind them Max Papis and Scott Pruitt. And it does look as though they've got the engine cover off on the Castroneves car. They're looking all around it, but apparently he's reporting it was losing power. Reporting on the radio it was losing power, so that does seem to be the problem once again for the talented Brazilian. Juan Montoya leads after just 4 laps have been completed.
If you've never experienced the thrill of Mach 3, it's wake-up time. Introducing Mach 3, the first triple blade shaving system from Gillette. 3 blades positioned to shave progressively closer. You take 1 stroke, it takes 3, so you don't have to shave over and over, which means less irritation. 3 blades, fewer strokes, less irritation. Mach 3. Gillette.
Have you experienced the new Kia? The new Kia in gear. A most surprising driving experience. Get in gear with Kia and discover the real meaning of value.
The Tour de France from July the 3rd, live on Eurosport.
Back live to kart in Sunday Thunder with Kia in gear.
Welcome back to Cleveland, Ohio, where the Burke Lakefront Airport hosts round 9 of the FedEx Championship Series, and it's Juan Montoya out in front at the moment by some 2.4 seconds from Gilles de Ferran in 2nd place, Paul Tracy in 3rd. Now you see the Hogan car there, that's not running in 2nd, I'm afraid. That's Helio Castroneves, who has rejoined after having some engine problems. He's come back out onto the circuit, and in fact now it seems to be going much better. There, meanwhile, is the battle between Andretti and Tracy, and it looks as though Andretti's just got back past Tracy.
Yeah, not quite. She must have done it at the far end of the east end of the racetrack, I think, in 7 and 8. The insurance tech didn't do it here in front of us at turn 9 and 10. That very fast chicane in front of the pits where you can overtake. But there, back ahead now, into 3rd place is the car of Michael Andretti.
Well, that's an interesting change around. Tracy presumably made a mistake because he'd managed to get away from Andretti a little bit. Moreno was right behind Andretti. All of a sudden that's changed, and Tracy between the 2 of them.
Yeah, he must have made a mistake because he lost almost 3 seconds on that lap, did Paul Tracy. So clearly an error somewhere, I think, around that lap. And we hear word from the pits that Helio Castroneves, a boost line, had come adrift on that car, so it lost all its boost. But, you know, they had a very hurriedly changed engine after the warm-up this morning, and I think perhaps that contributed to the problem there for Hogan Racing and Helio Castroneves.
So the rest of the field comes through. There's Andretti, Tracy and Moreno. Now we're hearing that it's possible Tracy overtook Andretti originally when he went past under a yellow, and that's, he's been told that he's got to go back behind Michael and try it all over again. And that's what we've gathered, so that's why Tracy's gone back. He didn't actually make a mistake. He dropped back on purpose to slot in behind Michael Andretti because he'd overtaken under yellow. Now, if you do go back and don't take advantage from it, then they will let you stay out there. If you try and take advantage of it, they'll bring you in and give you a stop and go.
A heads-up call there by Team Cool Green, and a good move, obviously, by Paul Tracy to make sure he didn't lose more than one position when he had to let Michael Andretti back past him. There, though, in 5th place is Roberto Moreno. Super sub, they call him. He's standing in still for Mark Blundell, who is injured his neck in a crash at Gateway, well, almost 2 months ago now. The good news is Mark Blundell should be back in the car for the next race. Good news for Mark Blundell. Not so good news, of course, for Roberto Moreno.
No, but Roberto taking this last chance and grasping it fully. Of course, he had a great run a few races ago in St. Louis when he finished in 4th position. In fact, he's been in the points every race since he's been subbing for Mark Blundell. So it's a great performance from Moreno, and I'm sure that other teams will have noticed that, and if they have any opportunities arising, then Moreno will live up to his super sub reputation and he'll be back out again soon. But today he has a real opportunity to finish up there in the top 6. He's in 5th position at the moment, very early part of the race. 9 laps have been completed, 91 laps still to go. We're taking a look here at Dario Franchitti, lying 2nd in the championship, 6 points behind Juan Montoya, but yet to win a race this season. Perhaps just feeling the pressure a little bit this weekend, trying very hard indeed, and in fact the car not handling quite to his liking. He said it was very lively over the bumps. Back end of the car was all over the place, and I can confirm that by I was watching up at that last corner on Friday in practice, and he was really holding on to the car, but a lot of skill being employed, whereas some of the other cars seem to be riding the bumps that little bit more easily and giving the drivers a slightly easier time. On board now with Juan Montoya, race leader, completely clear track in front of him. What a lovely view that is for him. No back markers to worry about as yet, because we're still in the early part of this race, and he's got to concentrate on just being smooth and not making any mistakes. Unusual to see an unforced error from him in that Friday morning practice, and it was coming through this corner that he's at now, turn 8, just got it a bit wrong over the bumps here, slammed into the wall on the outside, but since then he's been pretty good and he's kept it all under control.
Certainly has, and you know, just brilliant car control he has shown us this weekend. This boy really is a tremendous talent. Just takes the bull by the horns on Friday morning. His 8th lap around this place. He'd never seen it, of course, before. 8th lap, he went to the top of the timing charts in practice session. That was the good news. He crashed later on in the session, but he came back oh so strongly, qualified on the pole, and here he is again now. 4.1 second lead after just 11 laps.
Looking back, we saw Michael Andretti go through picture in 3rd place. Then it's Paul Tracy in 4th. Roberto Moreno just keeping an eye on things in 5th place. Patrick Carpentier in 6th. And then Dario Franchitti in 7th. Now, even at this stage, they will be aware of fuel consumption. They won't want to turn up the wick too much. They'll be using a fuel mixture that gives them reasonable performance, but bearing in mind they want to make this a 2-stop race, so they won't be able to run a full rich mixture. On the other hand, they'll still be pushing very, very hard within the cockpit and getting the maximum from the chassis.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Ben. Certainly in the early stages of the race, they will always turn back the fuel mixture, run a lean mixture. That means, of course, less fuel, more air in the mixture that produces a combustion inside the engine. That produces less horsepower, gets better fuel consumption. If they can stretch out that fuel and give themselves a margin towards the end of the race, of course, everybody has to start this race. There's a tear-off there that Christian Fittipaldi throws off. Everybody starts the race with exactly the same amount of fuel allocated to them. 35 gallons in the car, the remainder, that 200 miles divided by 1.85 miles in the pit side fuel tank. Management of that fuel, crucial in this kind of a race, and you want to try and give yourself a margin so you can step it up a little bit in the closing stages. That's the goal.
That's the goal, but we wait to see what happens. Of course, last time, a 3-stop strategy won the race for Gilles de Ferran, but everyone else was trying to do it on 2 stops. Let's see what happens today as the strategies become clear, and they will change as we go through the race. Now, there's a bit of moisture around. There's been reports of moisture down at turn 1. We can see a little bit of water on our commentary box windows, and at the west end of the track, there's definitely some reports of rain. Now, that screen, that video that we saw there from on board Christian Fittipaldi didn't show too much moisture, but there are a couple of areas where we're hearing reports of moisture, and as I say, looking out of our commentary box window, which is almost opposite our finish line, just between start-finish line and the last corner, we are seeing a little bit of water on our commentary box windows. Reports apparently that Michael Andretti has got some problems with his radio communication back to the pits, And as you watch that view, you can just see actually at that end of the track, the cloud very low and the buildings of downtown Cleveland, which are less than a mile away here, they're really beginning to be blanketed in that low cloud, and there is a great prospect. We're going to see some more rain as we go through this race. Juan Montoya leads, 13 laps complete.
Promise you'll call me Captain.
I will, I promise.
No matter where you go, I will be with you. If it takes a long time, no matter where you go, I will be with you. If it takes a thousand.
A promise is a promise.
Wherever you are and whatever you do, Allianz with its global partners is the power on your side.
Die Ruhe selbst. Der Toyota Avensis.
Back live to kart in Sunday Thunder with Kia in gear.
Welcome back to Eurosport's live coverage from Cleveland, and the weather is definitely looking dodgy. You can see there's more water, more moisture on the camera lens of Juan Montoya's car, and we've definitely got the prospect of it getting a little bit wet out here. Juan Montoya continues to lead after 16 laps have been completed of this 2.1-mile airport circuit at Cleveland, but the track beginning to get a bit slippery, and for the first time, Juan Montoya did not do a lap beneath a minute there. He was nearly a second slower on that last lap, and there's definitely, I mean, just looking out of our commentary box now, there is a lot of moisture around, and Montoya is going to have to step carefully here as the track begins to get slick and slippery. We ride on board with the Colombian, and this is going to be a big challenge. Now behind him, the car of Helio Castroneves, remember, is a lap down. That car has been into the pits and suffering a problem. It was actually 3 laps down, sorry, they lost that much time in the pits.
But Helio Castroneves really is flying. He's the quickest man on the track at the moment. He has closed in on Juan Montoya, and he wants to renew their battle, even if it is not really for a position on the racetrack.
Well, this could really turn things upside down. Max Papis and Robbie Gordon having a little battle there, side-by-side stuff. This was in 16th position. They're all fight. Oh, Gordon there. I don't know if there was contact, but they got completely crossed up. Gordon loses a load of places as a result of that. And it's all going on as the rain comes down, and the lap times, Montoya's lap time that time around was some 3 seconds slower than he'd done previously, whereas Gilles de Ferran was reasonably quick. He was 2 seconds faster on that last lap than Juan Montoya, so perhaps Montoya taking things a little carefully now that he's in the lead, he's in that ideal position, but he's got to chart for these changing conditions. On board with Richie Hearn there for a moment. Max Papis still in this group with Scott Pruitt, Mimo Gidley as well. Let's go down to Michel Jourdain now.
Somebody just died in front of me. I had to brake and lost a lot of positions. Then when I was trying to pass Mimo Gidley, I ran a little bit off track. And then when I was in fourth, when I tried to go into third, the third and fourth broke. So that's what so it was a gearbox problem. It's a shame because the Ardesla Mexico car, the Lola, was very, very good, and we had a very competitive car. So it's a shame. I think we could have got a very good result today, so we just have to keep working hard.
Okay, guys, I think that may not be the first or it may not be the last, I should say, gearbox problem we'll see today.
Well, that was a replay also of the problem for Michel Jourdain. Looking at Christian Fittipaldi here. He's at the front of that little group in 16th position. Papis, Pruitt, Nemo Gidley in there as well. And I'm glad to say we've been joined up in the commentary box by Mark Blundell. Well, I say glad, Mark, I'd rather see you out there racing again. But it's good to see the neck collar is off. And prospects good for you being out soon?
I hope so. We're going to go to the doctors tomorrow actually and do the x-rays, and I hope this time they're going to give me a green light and then we can get back on the racetrack.
You must be so frustrated watching all this that's going on.
Well, you know, it's a frustration for me. We obviously worked very hard in the off-season to get our car good. We had a little bit of bad luck while we were running, but Roberto's in the car and he's picking up the good work that's been done. He's doing an outstanding job, but I think there's a little bit more left in there, and definitely I'll try to extract it when I get back in my cockpit. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, Roberto running up in 5th position at the moment.
Dario Franchitti has a problem. He's slowed suddenly coming out of the turn 10 there. He's pulled off on the side of the racetrack going down towards turn. There is Dario Franchitti in trouble. He was running in 7th position.
Right. Jabbing out a bit, see if we can get it.
Let's listen to the radio there, which just picking up a bit of the radio communication. Gearbox by the sound of it, said something about being jammed in 5th, and it looks more critical than that, doesn't it?
I think the cable snapped.
Well, you heard that?
Okay, we hear you.
Cable snapped, he said. Mark, just explain to us, would that be the actual cable on the gear change itself, probably?
More than likely, there's a lot of stress on the gearbox through here. It's incredibly bumpy, this track, and it's taken a lot of load on the box, and it could have just been that the cable snapped off.
Stay there, we're going to tie you in. Stay there in the car, we're going to tie you in. Okay.
So receiving instructions to stay in the car, and they're going to tow that car back in.
Some teams have actually got 2 cables in the cockpit, so they can actually unhook it, hook a new one on, and get back on the road again.
All right, well, we'll see if that happens for Dario, but it's been a bad weekend all round for him. He's had a couple of offs, and that's really put him back, and now a gearbox problem, nothing he can do about that, of course. And as Jan Beekers was saying a moment ago, that's not the last of the gearbox troubles we will see here this afternoon. It is very tough on equipment, this track. And they've got a safety car heading down towards Dario Franchitti to hopefully tow him back to the pit lane. Just looking down at the overhead view of this track, Mark, there's not really much to compare this with in terms of European racing, is there? It's a unique kind of track. There's the runway, brilliant view of it.
I guess the comparison would be Heathrow or Gatwick, somewhere like that. But no, it's an incredibly different track. It's actually quite enjoyable because it's very wide, a lot of overtaking places, and creates good racing. And I think we've got a very good race in our hands here.
Yeah, particularly with the changing conditions, bit of rain around. Lap times, although, having said that, have come back down again, haven't they, Jeremy? We're now seeing laps in the 59s again.
Yes, we're absolutely back to the pace we were before. There's certainly no more moisture than there was now on the front screen of our window here in the booth, but it certainly seems to be drying out. There's a helicopter flying around as well. Weather conditions look pretty good at the moment, and as you say, right back up to speed, and a whole bunch of people now down below the 1 minute barrier, whereas before there was only one man below the 1 minute barrier, and that was Juan Montoya.
Now looking at Gilles de Ferran here, he lies in 2nd place still. He is 2.5 seconds behind Juan Montoya, so that's certainly a reasonable gap. Montoya's not escaping that quickly now. Michael Andretti still running in 3rd, and Andretti some nearly 4 seconds behind de Ferran. So de Ferran's pulled away a little bit from Michael in the last few laps. Tracy still running in 4th, then Moreno 5th, Carpentier 6th, Moore up to 7th now, and Gudrum in 8th, Fernandez 9th, with Vassar up to 10th. Cristiano de Mata is in 11th, and then Tony Kanaan is in 12th position. You can see, just looking on further down there, Maurizio Gugelmin, your teammate, Mark, running in 8th place. What sort of feedback have you had from Maurizio Roberto this weekend? Are they reasonably happy with the way the car's performing?
Yeah, they're very happy. They've got a good balance in the car. The grip's pretty good. It's been an impressive weekend so far.
Well, let's hope they manage to hold those positions. 5th place at the moment for Moreno, 8th. Let's go down to Kim Green in the pits.
Yes, it seems like we've lost throttle somehow. Something's broken in the throttle linkage. We were just cruising along there, saving fuel. Car was great. So we're very disappointed. It's been a tough weekend so far for us at Team Cool Green, but we'll go and get behind Paul's car now. He's running in 3rd, I think, or 4th, and see if we can bring him home a winner. For Dario, we're going to have to wait to Elkhart in 2 weeks.
Now, you just mentioned that you were cruising around saving fuel. In other words, had you leaned it out? Was that the strategy for today?
Yeah, we let Dario race a little bit at the start to try and gain some spots and then start saving fuel as soon as he could.
All right, got to go back upstairs. Helio Castro Neves has a problem.
Yes, Helio Castro Neves is stopped by the side of the track, as you can see. And, well, Dario's problem, not a gear change cable, but a throttle cable. Much the same result, of course. He's out of this race, and it's being led by Juan Montoya.
Have you experienced the new Kia? The new Kia in gear. A most surprising driving experience. Get in gear with Kia and discover the real meaning of value.
Whatever, whoever, wherever. If it's happening in European sport, it's reported on SportsCenter. And now the service is better than ever, introducing flashes for the really hot breaking news and a special extended late-night edition at the fixed time of 10 UK. SportsCenter, every day throughout the day, keeping you on the pace.
With Fila and Samsung, challenge the limits.
British Eurosport has arrived in the UK on NTL cable and on digital. If you live in the UK, you need British Eurosport. Back live to kart in Sunday Thunder with Kia in gear.
Welcome back to Eurosport's coverage from Cleveland, Ohio. And Juan Montoya leading here by some 2.6 seconds. Montoya's advantage over Gilles de Ferran with Michael Andretti in third place. Paul Tracy still in fourth, Moreno fifth, Carpentier in sixth. Things have settled down a little bit at the moment in terms of conditions. It stopped raining, and in terms of lap times, they're all lapping very consistently at this point.
Yeah, last couple of laps, Montoya had some traffic to deal with. He had to pass Walter Salas, Luis Garcia and Tarzo Marquez. Once he'd got clear of the traffic, next clear lap, 59.301. Easily the quickest lap so far in this race.
So 25 laps completed, 75 laps to go, but we're hearing that one or two perhaps getting ready to make pit stops already, and if that's the case, then it's more likely to be a three-stop race. Mark, we have Mark Blundell with us. Mark, we know this race traditionally is a tough one on fuel, isn't it?
It's very tough on fuel, but I think you're going to see a couple of interesting strategies today from a few teams. And the interesting thing for me is I've been out there on the racetrack listening to a few of these guys, and Montoya definitely has got at least a 400 RPM advantage in revs, and Castro Neves by the sound of it, but at the same point, revs is fuel. So it's interesting to see how far they can go.
So he seems to be using a little bit more, or have more revs to use from his engine. But that's an interesting point, yes, and fuel consumption is so critical here. I wonder if they've already decided that they're just going to chase it down and go for the three stops, which of course is what Gilles de Ferran did last time out in Portland.
And last time around here, Gilles de Ferran a 58.934. He pulled back 0.4 of a second over Juan Montoya. Maybe he knows, once again, like in Portland, he cannot make it on two stops. Maybe he decided that. He's turned up the wick. He's going to try and close up on Juan Montoya and see what he can do in the second part of this race.
We saw Helio Castroneves stop by the side of the road a little while ago. It is a throttle-related problem, we're being told, that has caused his retirement, so it is the end of the day for the Brazilian. Meanwhile, we've seen a pit stop already. Richie Hearn was in just a moment ago, not running very well up in the overall order of things, 21st at the moment, but it does look as though Gilles de Ferran is going to be coming in very soon. Paul Tracy just putting a lap on Tarso Marquez. Interestingly, this weekend, no Penske's in this race. First time for a very long time that there's been no Penske's in a Champ Car race, Jeremy, and both Penske drivers this weekend in the Lolas.
That's absolutely right, and an interesting decision by that team, certainly, because on the first day of practice, Tarso Marquez was in the Penske chassis.
Gilles de Ferran coming into the pits then. He comes in from second place. 27 laps have been completed here and no full course yellows so far. If this is the sort of pace they're going to run, they are going to need to do three stops. Now, on the 50-mile-an-hour limit, that new 50-mile-an-hour limit that's been in for a couple of races, down towards his pit box. And this is the vital stop. Paul Tracy also into the pits, let me tell you. We can see him coming in as we glance out of our window. A number of other cars coming in, but none of the other front runners at this point. So slicks go on. A full tank of fuel, and de Ferran comes back out again. Good clean stop. In fact, Jimmy Vasser was just about to pull into his pit stop at the same time, but it was clear. And there is Vasser, twice a pole sitter here in Cleveland. They have the starter ready, just in case he stalls it. Always prepared for problems, but hopefully they won't have any. Clear run out, particularly now that Helio Castroneves is out of the race. The only pit in front of them is the pit of Helio Castroneves, and he's retired already.
And there goes Juan Montoya, one more lap around. There's 29 laps in the books now for Juan Montoya, and no sign of a pit stop yet. We've had, what, 7 or 8 people yet to make a first pit stop. And in second place on the road, we're waiting for him now, is Michael Andretti, who is putting in the pit lane. And in Mark Blundell's car, there goes the Motorola car, now driven by Roberto Moreno, up into second place.
So Moreno stays out on track as well. Good fuel consumption for Moreno. Let's listen out on the radio here, see if we can get some of the instructions that Ed Nathman's shouting to Michael Andretti. Remember, he stalled it a couple of times in the pits this year. Gets away cleanly this time, no problem. And in fact, when he stalled it last time, it wasn't his mistake last week in Portland. It was the engine management system that just shut down. And it was a glitch in the software of the engine management system that saw the engine shut down. It wasn't Michael's fault. And the boys at Cosworth were a little upset that it had happened, but they went testing this week at Road America to try and make sure it would never happen in the future. The only trouble is tracing those problems, and they're still not sure whether they managed to find the problem. Now, Montoya still out there, Jeremy. How many laps is he going to be able to do on this tank?
Yeah, that is quite amazing. And the pace he was running, and still able to go farther than anybody else on fuel. Quite remarkable.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And if he can keep up this sort of pace and presumably the same economy, then he is going to be in tremendous shape here this afternoon, just getting in amongst the slower cars. Both Forsyth cars in at the same time. That's the cars of Patrick Carpentier and Greg Moore. Remember, Carpentier ahead of Moore before they came in. Now, are they going to be able to get him out ahead of his teammate as well? He gets away cleanly, and the two come out in formation once again. So, out they go. Lap 31 we're on at the moment. Greg Moore's engine changed overnight after a problem suffered yesterday. Montoya comes in this time. Juan Montoya into the pits this time, race leader for his vital first pit stop. Now, he drives all the way down to the very end of the pits.
Straight in.
Let's listen out on the radio. Chip Ganassi is the man talking to Juan Montoya.
Speed. Nice and easy. Okay, 0 the fuel. Turn the limiter off.
All the instructions coming through.
Tires are on. You ready? Go, go, go.
Beautiful, beautiful stop from the Ganassi team. They've shown over so many years how brilliant they are in their pit work, and once again Montoya stopping it on the button. No mistakes from him, didn't stall it. Watch this pit lane exit. This can be a bit tricky sometimes because they join in a funny angle into turn 1, but there's nobody around to worry him, so he comes out of the pits.
And Michael Andretti is back in the lane again, Ben. Sorry to interrupt you there. Michael Andretti, he's already made a pit stop. He's back onto pit lane, and there's some more precipitation here, just a little bit at least.
Well, quite a lot, I think, actually. We've got umbrellas up all in the grandstand in front of us. It is beginning to rain hard, but what's happened to Michael Andretti? It was a drive-through by the looks of things. A drive-through penalty, perhaps?
Could be. Maybe, well, he either exceeded the speed lane, the pit lane, the speed limit, which is 50 miles an hour, or he may have run over a little piece of equipment, perhaps an air hose or something like that. And if you do that, it's an automatic penalty.
Race leader now, Roberto Moreno. Well, he was until he made this pit stop. And he's managed to push it all the way to lap 32 before making his pit stop. Now, that's vital, because if he can keep up that sort of performance, he might be able to make it on just 2 stops.
That's absolutely true. Tremendous effort there. And in front of it, as he leaves his pit stall, right across from him, out on the racetrack, 100 yards away, is the race leader, Juan Montoya. He will retain the lead. In second place still will be Gilles de Ferran, and well, maybe Moreno might be able to hold on to third ahead of Paul Tracy.
Yes, Tracy heading down that straight, but I think Moreno has got out in third place. So Moreno rejoining the field there. I think he is in third. I think he managed to get out ahead of Paul Tracy. And Juan Montoya now is back in front in this race.
And Michael Andretti is in the pit lane once more, and it really is raining quite hard. Now there is Michael, splash of fuel there. That's wet tyres going on, I think, for Michael Andretti.
Right, change of tactics for Michael Andretti. Wet tyres, you're spot on there, Jeremy. Well spotted, and he goes out on wets. Alonso Jr. is into the pits. De Ferran is coming in as well, and they are going to put wets on. Now, this is crucial. Lap times have slowed down considerably over the last lap or so. You're looking at it, oh, look how slippery it is as he comes out of the pit lane. Montoya coming in as well. So this is all change once again as the rain comes down. Listen on the radio, Chip Ganassi talking to Juan Montoya. And what a shame for Moreno. That was the worst timing, of course. If they'd put Moreno on wets, just think of the advantage he'd be in at the moment.
Moreno has not come into the pits. He does go past her in the lead of the race. Paul Tracy, though, is in the pits in second place. And that is one of the... Patrick Gonconti also stays out there. Gilles de Ferran in the pits.
Out comes Juan Montoya then on his wet tyres and accelerates down the pit lane. Now, Andretti lost a lot of time having to come into the pits. Moreno is now in front in this race. Now, here is a spin from Gilles de Ferran. Did he manage to avoid hitting anything? Yes, he did. But then, did he manage to get it turned around? He's in the pits, he's had his wet tyres fitted, and he's back out again. But that lost him some ground compared to Juan Montoya, obviously.
Fascinating strategy here. If I look across to the west there, the sky is a lot brighter. And all at the same time, the track will dry. Look, it's pretty wet now. Look at it, very, very wet. But it's pretty humid here. There is a little bit of a breeze, and the track, I think, will dry out fairly quickly.
Look at PJ Jones spinning there. He lost that really under braking. That was a slightly strange spin. Oh, only just missed. I'm not sure who that was. It might have been Richie Hearn, who just avoided him. Now, here is our race leader, Roberto Moreno, on slicks. He's on slicks in these conditions, and you can see for yourself how difficult that must be. The track is slick on line as well, where they've been laying rubber down all weekend, and Moreno trying to hold on to this guy. He's got Robbie Gordon breathing down his neck as they cross the line this time. Moreno is race leader. Gordon has been lapped, so he's not a challenge for the race leader this race. Meanwhile, Brian Herter comes out of the pits as... Oh, and there's been a big accident! A big accident there!
That's Jimmy Vasser, I think.
Yes, one of the Ganassi cars with Tony Kanaan nearer you in the McDonald's car, but one of the Ganassi cars is it. Oh, and Marquez goes off in the same place. Tarso Marquez crashes in exactly the same spot. It's on the exit of turn number 8. Look at the rain coming down. These guys on slick tyres.
Unbelievably, the yellow flags are not yet out. This is absolutely insane. There's 2 cars in the wall there at the fastest corner on the racetrack, and it's still green flag conditions. That I do not understand.
It's Vasser. We have confirmation that it's Vasser. It's not Juan Montoya who's been battling for the lead in this race. It is Jimmy Vasser up there. And just look, still, now it's yellow. Now it is full course yellow at last. Presumably the yellows were being waved up at that corner. Let's see if we can see what happened here. Well, there was somebody...
That was Gugelmin. There's a Hollywood car of Mauricio Gugelmin there who just about got away with it, but those two there heavily into the tyres. That is Jimmy Vasser and the McDonald's car there of... Poor Tony Kanaan, a heavy hit for both of those two.
Look at the rain coming down now. Moreno's been off as well, apparently, and there's Paul Tracy spinning, and there Gilles de Ferran, and he's on wets. Gilles de Ferran's on wets, so it shows you how slippery it is now. Now, here's... Oh, Fittipaldi spun in the pit lane. Fittipaldi spun in the pit lane.
Well, you know, it's so treacherous. You can see he is on slick tyres, still absolutely treacherous conditions.
It's horrible out there, isn't it? Moreno still hasn't been in for his... wets now. Did he get going again? We heard that Moreno spun out there somewhere. There's Moreno. Look at the water. He's on slick tyres. How he's getting around at all, I have no idea. And these guys just trying to go around at walking pace is almost impossible. Almost impossible to get around. Just trickling around. Fittipaldi is having his wet tyres fitted now. The Rainmeister. Fittipaldi, he always goes to one rain, but...
You're not going to believe this, Ben. Michael Andretti has made 3 pit stops. He's in 4th position.
That's amazing. How has he done that? But Montoya's race leader. Montoya's doing everything right. He's got a 14-second lead, or he did have, over Tracy, but now they're under yellow. Well, what conditions can you ask for here in Cleveland? And amazingly, after a Grand Prix that saw wet and dry conditions in France, we have much the same story here, some thousands of miles away, with rain interrupting this race. And just look at the damage down there at turn number 8. Jimmy Vasser walks away. Tarso Marquez car down there. Front nose cone damage, front wing damage to Roberto Moreno's car. Presumably they are going to get around to changing that, are they? No, they're not. How very strange.
No, well, he's sort of halfway down. They'll probably come in next time around. There's no point in losing too much time. They don't want to lose a lap, of course. It is a full course caution at the moment. He comes in. He did need to switch to wet weather tyres. There's no question about that. So he's already lost a lot of ground. He's actually down now in 13th position. There's only another couple of cars perhaps still straggling through here on the lead lap. So come in, get those tyres on, pack up behind the pace car, then come in, and while the pace car is going around here pretty slowly in these wet conditions, then they will be able to change the nose cone, hopefully without losing a lap.
Well, all of this has meant some change around in position, and you said that Michael Andretti come up to 4th, Jeremy. Look who's up into 5th. Al Unser Jr. has suddenly appeared there in 5th position out of nowhere as a result of these changing conditions, and it's perhaps where you see the guys with the experience who manage to somehow get around the track on their slick tyres, get into the pits cleanly, get the wets on and get back out again. And Al Unser Jr. has therefore found himself having a 5th place. Carpentier 6th, with Greg Moore in 7th, Fernandez 8th, D'Amata 9th, Robbie Gordon 10th, Brian Hertz 11th, Scott Pruitt in 12th position. As you say, Roberto Moreno dropped down to 13th place now, but trying to stay on the lead lap. And the clear-up operation continues there on the exit of turn number 8. Full course yellow here at Cleveland as a result of cars off all over the place, but primarily up at turn number 8 with Tarso Marquez car, the Penske coloured Lola, the white and red Lola, and then Jimmy Vasser's car up there as well, Tony Kanaan, and that's going to take a few minutes to get cleared up. And that's the view from on board our race leader, Juan Montoya. 36 laps have been completed here. Paul Tracy runs 2nd, Gilles de Ferran in 3rd, Michael Andretti 4th, and Al Unser Jr. has come all the way up to 5th position as a result of these changing conditions. Carpentier in 6th, and there into the pits and back out again, Max Papis, who's had a struggling weekend. He's got damage to his front wing as well, and much as Moreno, presumably, he's going to go out, go a lap, come back in again, and have a nose cone change. So it is all happening here in Cleveland at the moment, but for the moment at least we've got a bit of rest as the pace car is out, so we'll take the break.
There's always something plus. The Wagon-R Plus, a Suzuki original.
Passengers for Sydney, flight number 14.
I just have to tell you, we miss your tenderness, your surprises, your playing with John, and your perfume. That's what we really miss. Come home soon.
Boutique Aéroport de Paris, tout l'esprit de Paris.
Back live to kart in Sunday Thunder with Kia in gear.
Welcome back to Eurosport's coverage here from a very wet Cleveland. Juan Montoya leads, 37 laps in the books, but it's going to be quite a long yellow still. The clear-up operation going on up at turn 8, where we had several cars off into the tyre barrier. There you are, doing a fine job up there. They've got Tony Kanan's car up in the air, moving that. Vassar's car's already out the way, I think, so very rapid work going on to try and clear the track so we can get things going. There's the field summary. Montoya ahead of Tracy, De Ferran, Andretti, Little Al, Carpentier, Greg Moore, Fernandez, Robbie Gordon up to 9th, then Hurt and Pruitt up to 11th place, Moreno next up in 12th position, then Cristiano De Mata, PJ Jones, but then we're into cars that are lap or more down, and so perhaps not really going to play such a big part in it here this afternoon. But Michael Andretti, really amazing, as you said earlier, Jeremy, the fact that he had that drive-through penalty and then had to come back into the pits, put the wets on, but he was pretty much the first guy to put the wets on, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and yes, he was. That was on lap 29 and lap 30, I guess, the third of his pit stops, and he sits for a long way back down there. Looking also down into the pits in front of us, Cristiano De Mata has a problem. He was running well. He was up inside the top 10 again. He was actually running in 9th place in the pit, so and out of the car. That's a shame for Cristiano De Mata.
Yeah, pity there. He's had some good runs, but it doesn't always seem to come together for the young Brazilian. Now, coming into this race, this was the situation with the championship points. Juan Montoya, his advantage 6 points after scoring pole. Franchini's out of this race. De Ferran's up there, of course, and he got up into 3rd place as a result of his win last week. Greg Moore's running quite well in this race so far. He's in 7th. Adrian Fernandez, Michael Andretti, watch out for him. But of course, Juan Montoya, championship leader and leading this race so far. Further on down the list, we've got Christian Fittipaldi, 7th. Tracy getting up there in the points after a much better mid-season run here. Jimmy Vasser in 10th place, PJ Jones, and then Tony Kanaan in 12th position. So those were the points coming into this race. We're just going to have to see what happens. It's going to be an extremely unpredictable outcome here this afternoon. It's always unpredictable with jam cars. I don't know what I'm saying, really, but I think that the rain throws it up even more into the air, and we'll just have to see what comes back down again. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of the race so far. There's been various incidents already, various people in trouble that we might have expected to be further up the order, and we've got an opportunity to bring you some of the highlights of this race. We're just watching the cars go around behind the pace car. Lots of spray still out there, although it's not raining quite so hard. Now, this is some of the highlights we've seen so far. Gilles de Ferran spinning. PJ Jones had a spin when it was a little bit drier. The rain was just beginning at that point. And then this accident that we've just seen being cleared up. The Jimmy Vasser, Tony Kanaan, and then joining them a few moments later. Now, this was the spin of Fittipaldi, and look at that, that really was walking pace.
Yeah, I mean, look at all the water there, just standing water there on slick tyres, just aquaplaned around. He put on the brakes to try and slow it down for the pit stall there, and around she went. Nothing you could do about it, really.
Let's hear from Jimmy Vasser now.
Buffed a pretty good start in the race. It's moving up a bit, and then you know, it started raining down there, and I was going to come in for tires, and we discussed it with the team. They were ready for me, but it was my call to stay out one more lap, because the last time through before I came in, it wasn't raining down there anymore where it was before. And I thought, you know, maybe it was just a brief shower. The skies looked a little bit bright, and I thought I'd give it one more reconnaissance lap before and then it was just really raining. So I decided I'm coming in, and I came into that turn 8 down there, and I was going about 20 miles an hour, and I needed a rudder more than anything. It wouldn't even turn at all, and it's just all flooded and just went straight in the wall.
And guys, as I'm sure you can see, it's raining even heavier now. Rick?
Maurizio Gugelmin, another one of those people who tried to gamble. Your spotter was saying, I think it's going to dry out a little bit, and you stayed out. Yeah, he did that, but it's very hard to judge when it's a thunderstorm. If you look around, there is some bright spots, and tell you, I think my car just got playing on the floor because I was almost going straight and felt like a hoover on the wall and just sucked my car in, and both suspensions on the left were damaged, and I'm done. I think this thing now is a typhoon. I think they're going to red flag this thing. Not much you can do. You said the only guy who's going to win out there is the pace car. The way it is, I don't think these cars can run. They're very low on the ground, and if you get a lot of water, you had guys spinning on the pit lane, you don't complain with the tires, you're complaining with the floor of the car, so that's undrivable. Unfortunately, Maurizio Gugelmin out of this. Jan?
Dario Franchitti, another one out, but you were out prior to that with problems, what, throttle cable?
Yeah, I think the throttle cable snapped. The guy said it was losing throttle angle before the start, so basically the full power was getting less and less, and then it just snapped, let go coming out the last corner, so we cruised to a halt. very frustrating because this is exactly what we needed this weather. You know, in the wet, we've always been quick, and we're looking forward to going to the front.
There's a lot of drivers that wish they weren't out there. This guy wish he was.
Well, I can understand that. Remember what a great drive he put in Houston last year in torrential weather conditions, but he hasn't got the chance this time. His teammate, though, still running in second place.
If you've never experienced the thrill of Mach 3, it's wake-up time. Introducing Mach 3, the first triple blade shaving system from Gillette. 3 blades positioned to shave progressively closer. You take 1 stroke, it takes 3, so you don't have to shave over and over, which means less irritation. 3 blades, fewer strokes, less irritation. Mach 3. Gillette.
The same all-wheel drive system that makes this Subaru a winner around the world is the same all-wheel drive system that makes this Subaru a winner on the road. Subaru.
The Tour de France from July the 3rd, live on Eurosport.
Back live to kart in Sunday Thunder with Kia in gear.
Welcome back to Cleveland, where conditions are just getting worse and worse. The rain is pouring down, and there's some hardy fans still in the grandstand. Brilliant turnout of fans here this afternoon, but they are getting absolutely drenched out there. Just look at the puddles on circuit at the moment. Horrendous conditions. 40 laps have been completed. There are still 60 laps due to be run here. The rain looks a bit set in for the moment.
Yeah, it does for a while. It's really, actually, we're getting pretty wet inside here. The booth is leaking. That's not a good sign. But look at it's certainly cleared up a little bit, comparatively speaking, over the last minute or so. But there's a landing light there out in front of the pit lane that really is burning very brightly indeed in these conditions. Just appalling. No way we can go back to racing.
Not yet. No, that's right. Not yet. There's no chance. There's just too much surface water. As Maurizio Guterman said, the cars will aquaplane just underneath the chassis of the car. There's enough water build up. They run so close to the ground that the thing just turns into a raft. Let's hear from Tony Kanaan now.
The rain first because you spun in it, but you couldn't get into the pits because of the rain.
Yeah, Rick, I couldn't come in because I had a Michael ahead, and Cristiano was a big spray, and I was really slow. And when I saw the pit entrance, it was already too late, and I couldn't brake to stop and come back. Otherwise, I would have spun. I had the slick tires. Fortunately, was a good race until I prayed for the rain for so long, and when they come, here I am. So
didn't have the right tires on when it finally happened. You said you were only going 20 miles an hour when you spun.
No, probably even that. You could pass me with the bike, but unfortunately, the luck it's not on my side right now. We have to turn that, around, and we'll see. I just hope my mom doesn't, get really upset with me, because she's gonna call me and, give me a hard time.
Tony's worried about his mom now.
Well, Tony Kanaan certainly sad to be out of this one, but always got a laugh and a smile. And look at the umbrellas out on the grandstands there, and the Max, and you can see some people weren't quite so well prepared for the weather conditions. It's been absolutely glorious weather up until today, and quite a few people not exactly prepared for the rain shower.
No, but nobody has moved from this crowd. And look at everybody in front of us actually standing up and cheering. I think it's a TV camera trained down. I want to think they've taken their moment of glory here, but look at that. As we look, though, on board with Richie Hearn's car, I'm looking out of the booth here to the west, and I can tell you there is some blue sky over there, and it's certainly a heck of a lot brighter, and that is where there is weather is coming from. So let's have our fingers crossed here and hope that, God, it's pace car there splashing through the spray.
Well, unfortunately, it's not only today, but whole weekend. Again, the team was doing a superb job in setting the car, and I don't know what happened. The car just stopped on the back straight, and well, it's a lot of happenings all the time, but that's racing. If you gotta let that go down, you're gonna be down. So go for the next one. Elkhart Lake, we're gonna take them.
You like driving in the rain? Do you wish your car was still running right now so you could slip and slide out there?
Oh yeah, I wish. I was dying there. I can't believe it. But hey, that's racing, and I'm sure the next one you're gonna do it again.
Another guy who loves to drive in the wet.
Yeah, well, the talented drivers love the opportunity, but there is some blue sky. There you are. They're definitely brightening up from that end of the track. The rain has eased off. Wally Dallenbach's told them they've got to stay out there because he sees it clearing up, and hopefully the race will get underway again soon.
Die Ruhe selbst. Der Toyota Avensis.
In an extraordinary adventure beyond life and time, an awesome discovery is about to be made.
It does exist.
Now, Eurosport invites you to take part in a competition that offers you a chance to win a week's trip to Morocco and explore the locations of the Mummy. To enter the competition, answer the following question. Who built the pyramids? Was it the Romans, the Egyptians, the Greeks? Call the Eurosport hotline now for your chance to win this once-in-a-lifetime trip. The Mummy.
Whatever, whoever, wherever. If it's happening in European sport, it's reported on SportsCenter. And now the service is better than ever, introducing flashes for the really hot breaking news and a special extended late-night edition at the fixed time of 10 UK. SportsCenter, every day throughout the day, keeping you on the pace.
With Fila and Samsung challenge the limits.
Welcome back to Cleveland. It's definitely getting drier out there. It's not raining hard now at all. A lot of water on the track, of course, a lot of standing water, but it is not raining quite so hard.
No, that's right. Look at the difference there between the taxiway where the cars are now and coming now onto the runway. This is that's actually turns 5 and 6 there. The left-hander followed by this right-hander, and you can see that the old concrete surface there really seems to hold the water, and they're going to have to keep a long way away from the apex of that corner. Once they get onto that new asphalt, it's a lot drier and a lot more grip there, so it's going to be a real handful to when these cars get back up to speed, but there's no way they can do it for a few laps. They need to clear away at least some of that standing water before we can get back to green flag racing.
That's right, yes, and as you can see, looking from the back of Montoya's car, just a wall of spray presented to anybody following. Just no chance of seeing anything. So at least things are brightening up. We really have quite a lot of blue sky as we look out of our commentary box window now. We've got a chance to catch up with Cristiano D'Amata in pit lane.
When you suddenly went sliding.
Yeah, we took the risk. We wanted to stay one more lap out, but unfortunately it got too wet. There were big pedals on the last turn 6 and 7. I got into aquaplane and just clipped the wall, broke the twin toe out bar. That's the end.
Now, we were talking about how is this track going to dry? Let's say it stops raining, the guys keep driving around. You think it will dry out very quick, or how big a problem are those puddles that are left going to be?
There, for an airport, there are many more pedals than I would imagine there is out there. And I don't, maybe if it stops raining in 5 or 6 laps, that should be okay to start racing again.
For everybody, unfortunately, but Cristiano D'Amata.
Yeah, sadly out of the race. He's the Indy Lights champion of last year, who's been a very impressive rookie this season. Of course, the most impressive rookie has been the man leading the race, Juan Montoya, championship leader by 6 points. But Cristiano de Mata, in not as competitive a car, has put in a very good account of himself.
Krombacher. Ein Pilz, kostbar wie seine Natur. Frisch und rein, wie das Felsquellwasser, mit dem es gebraut wird. Krombacher, eine Perle der Natur.
Suddenly, everything else looks like a Hayabusa from Suzuki.
Die Ruhe selbst. Der Toyota Avensis.
The Tour de France from July the 3rd, live on Eurosport.
Still very hard to see anything there once you're in the car. Lots of spray around, but let me tell you, it is so much brighter out here and no rain falling at the moment. So hopefully this race will get underway again soon. And apparently Chief Steward Wally Dallenbach, a former racer himself, who in fact is in his final year as acting as Chief Steward, has been on the radio even to Juan Montoya to get a little bit of opinion from one of the drivers out on circuit as to just how far away they are from getting this race underway again. Now we're just in this little pause that we have in the racing action, gives us a chance perhaps to just look back over the season a touch. Here, Jeremy, we're just looking back over laps completed. It's an interesting statistic to look at. I mean, of course, in American motorsport, it's always something that's identified with. And Christian Fittipaldi completed more laps than anybody this year.
He's completed every single racing lap that we have had this year, so he's really done a good job. The problem is, of course, for him now, he is a lap down. The Rainmeister is a lap down at the moment in 16th place. That's certainly bad news for him, but look at that Greg Moore there. He's only he failed to complete 1 lap. Juan Montoya only failed to complete 6 laps. And there, poor Castro Neves, he's only completed 926 laps, and when you fall out of races that often, you're not going to get the points. He's been fast at every single race he's had. I think it's 4 fastest laps in the races, but very few points to show for it, and that certainly 16th position in the FedEx Championship Series point standings is not at all indicative of his talent or his pace.
Well, it's interesting looking at those statistics, and particularly in terms of Juan Montoya, the rookie who's come into this championship and been so fast. But not only has he been fast, as you saw from those figures, he's completed most of the racing laps. In fact, he's finished every single race. The only race really where he lost much ground was Motegi, where he finished in 13th place when they ran out of fuel there, in spite of battling for the lead. Gateway, he lost a lap or so when he finished in 11th. But that just shows you that Montoya's not only been fast, he's got the car to the end of the races, and that is such an important part of challenging for an overall title. Now, apparently his replies to Wally Dallenbach when he was asked about what the track conditions are like, he's saying the straights are pretty good now. Not much problem on the straights, but that area that you identified earlier, Jeremy, on the taxiways, the turns up there at 3, 4, 5 and 6, that's really the area that's causing concern.
Yeah, it is. It's just sort of collecting there in the sort of pockets between the runways and the taxiways, and particularly on the apexes of the corners where the grass there runs up butts against the concrete or the asphalt, depending on which part of the racetrack it is, and it's there that the water has collected, and that is still the problem for these drivers. But you know, as far as I'm concerned, they know where the problem areas are by now. It is drying out all the time. I see no reason why we shouldn't get started again in a lap or two, really.
No, that's right. I think we should be able to. Look at winners from pole here. It's happened quite often in the past at this racetrack. Not every time, but quite often. Danny Sullivan did it, Emerson Fittipaldi. There was a run of wins from pole there in the early 90s. Paul Tracy did it in 93, Alanson Jr. in 94, and Alex Zanardi did it in 1997, although interestingly that 1997 result doesn't really tell you the full story, because Alex Zanardi might have started from pole, but he actually went down a whole lap, didn't he? It was an amazing run, that one.
Yeah, so he was up and down the lap charts like a yo-yo, that race. He had a stop and go penalty, I think, and all sorts of disasters and delays and what have you, and he just charged back, and you know, it was a brilliant drive. You know, luck played in his favour that day. The fuel strategy was such that he was able to go flat out where some of the others were having to cruise, and that really wasn't by design. That was simply because of the other unscheduled pit stops he'd had along the way. But certainly tremendous performance that was by Alex Zanardi.
Well, we're going to just keep an eye on things at the moment. Juan Montoya just cruising around behind that pace car. Down there in the pit lane, you can see the pit crews are busy sweeping the water out of the way and just trying to clear that area in case the racing gets underway, and they're making quick pit stops. Of course, it's something the drivers have to allow for if they are coming into the pits. In spite of that 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, you've still got to stand on the brakes when you arrive at your pit box, and there's not going to be an awful lot of grip down there in these conditions. Juan Montoya is leading the field around. You can see they've got the circuit sweepers in the background. You see that truck going round. That's actually one of the sweepers out on track to try and sweep the really deep puddles away. The worst area really is that section of turns 5, 6 and 7 we're hearing. That's where the worst of the puddles are as they rejoin onto the resurfaced runway here at Burke Lakefront Airport. An airport for most of the year, but for the 4 days of the race weekend, or in fact really it's only 3 days, because the circuit's not shut down until Friday morning, and all the action gets going a little bit later here on a Friday than it does at most tracks.
That's exactly right, but not only that, it'll be open again a couple of hours after the checkered flag falls this afternoon. That there's several team owners actually have flown up here. I know Steve Horn flew up here, the president of McDonald's Championship Racing. He flew up. He has a private plane. He flew up from Columbus, Ohio. Probably about an hour's flight for him. Less than that, probably, actually. It's only 2 hours by road, but nice, easy jaunt for him. He's parked his aircraft over there by the main terminal building, which now serves as a press office for this racetrack. So, as I say, just a couple of hours later, this circuit is going to be a racetrack no longer, and back to being an active runway.
Well, it's fun. I think it's a great idea to have a race course in this way. The sad thing is that it may not continue. There are rumours that they won't be holding any more kart races. I think that would be sad, but we're just going to have to keep an eye on that for the future. We're looking back at some of the incidents and action that have happened here at Cleveland in the past in slightly drier conditions. Perhaps you can just sit back and enjoy the pictures that we've enjoyed here in last year's. That was Alex Zanardi, his famous donuts of winning here in 1997. That was one of his most spectacular victories of all time. Gilles de Ferran was a winner at this racetrack. In fact, he nearly won it in his rookie year, but sadly he tangled with Scott Pruitt towards the end of the race, and that was the end of the day for him. And Michael Andretti has always seemed to run well here.
The first 3 years that Gilles de Ferran came to this racetrack, he actually led most laps in the event. So he really did take to this track very quickly indeed, and he's done well again this weekend. He, of course, one of the few drivers that is on Goodyear tyres, although having said that, he is running now in 3rd place. Alanson Jr. is in 5th place, also on Goodyear tyres.
Yeah, so an interesting chance to see how the wets get on. Max Papis has just come into the pits, interestingly enough. interesting time to come into the pits. Looking at the recap of the race here, Montoya has been leading for most of it. There have been 2 leaders, 4 changes of lead, really through the pit stops more than anything else, though, those changes of lead. And out, we've seen a number of cars mainly crashing out. The Matter, Guterman, Canaan, Vassar, Marquez. Franchitti went out with throttle cable failure. Castroneves with some throttle-related problem as well. Michel Jourdain went out with gearbox problems very early on in the race. Max Papis has been out, and he rejoins the fray.
Yeah, absolutely. He was last in the field, actually. He's 19th, if you can believe it. 2 laps behind the race leaders. Just an appalling weekend for Max Papis, and absolutely no point in coming into the pits. You might as well come in, top up with fuel, and hope that perhaps the cautions will fall his way, and that he will be able to make his next stop under yellow. Perhaps everybody else have to stop under green. Perhaps he can gain at least one of those laps back. But tall order, but absolutely nothing to lose. So good strategy from Team Rahal.
Yes, as you say, nothing to lose. Had a horrible weekend so far, Max Papis. Let's just hope things get a little bit better. Just looking at the field go through the turn number 6 area there, and let's just quickly remind you what the situation is. Hopefully we're not far away from a restart here. It really does look as though the track's in reasonable condition. And let's just run through the order. It's Juan Montoya who leads. Paul Tracy is in 2nd position. Gilles de Ferran is in 3rd. Michael Andretti 4th. Al Unser Jr. is in 5th. Then it's Patrick Carpentier 6th, ahead of teammates Greg Moore. Adrian Fernandez is in 8th. Robbie Gordon 9th. Brian Herter 10th. Scott Pruitt 11th. Roberto Moreno in 12th. And then PJ Jones 13th, ahead of Mimo Gidley, Richie Hearn, Christian Fittipaldi. Walter Sales is down there, then Luis Garcia Jr., Max Papis, and that's it. The rest of the cars all out of this race, so that means that we have 19 cars out of the 27 that started. We're hearing that it will indeed be very soon that we get the restart underway.
I think that's good news. I think we're just about ready now. The track is drying out pretty quickly. There is Paul Tracy in 2nd place. Ahead of him on the racetrack, however, are 3 lapped cars between himself and the race leader, Juan Montoya. Directly behind Montoya is PJ Jones, then Luis Garcia, who is 2 laps down, and also Mimo Gidley, who is 1 lap down. There is Gilles de Ferran in 3rd place. He is directly behind Paul Tracy and running in 3rd place on this racetrack, but 6th on the road.
And that, if you can spot it through all the rain and murk on the screen, is Michael Andretti running in 4th position. And he'll be fairly happy to get this race underway again, I think. A good opportunity still for him. And there's little Al Unser Jr. So 2 of the veterans of the series, as they are nowadays, running 4th and 5th on the track. With Richie Hearn, that's a lapped car behind him. And then another lapped car, that looks like Mimo Gidley.
Yeah, it's Christian Fittipaldi. That's his shame. Christian's a lap down. There is Patrick Carpentier. He's been ahead of his teammate Greg Moore all weekend, so he's doing well. Shame for the race, I think, that Christian Fittipaldi lost a lap early on there in that weather. I think he must have had a spin somewhere. Shame, because he's always mighty in the rain. But there is Greg Moore in 7th place, and I think we're going to be going back to green fairly soon here, just as well. The sun is shining brightly now, and this track is going to dry out very quickly indeed. And it's now going to be a question of how good the wet weather tyres are in drying conditions.
Yes, and trying to hold them up until it's time to refuel for the final time. That's all going to be fun to see. On board with Juan Montoya as we prepare to get going here.
And that is going to be the key, Ben. How long can they keep these tyres underneath them? We still have 52 laps to go. I think the most they can really do on a green under green flag conditions is sort of 35. That's when did look at my lap chart here. When did Montoya came in after 31 laps? So not much more than 30 laps can they do under green flag conditions. Chances are, I think, we're probably going to be looking at 2 more pit stops here. There's Al Unser Jr. in the pits.
He's got a problem with his visor, apparently. It's fogging up so badly that they're having to sort something out for Al Unser Jr. the crash helmet, and the team goes to work. Looks like they've been rehearsing this move as well, of changing the visor. Obviously, visibility is going to be a nightmare when they do get going here, and they're trying to put a new visor on Al's helmet, but this, of course, has meant he's dropping a whole bunch of places. This is very sad. He'll go to the tail of the lead lap, which will put him in 12th position, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly right, 12th place, but even worse than that, of course, it'll put him at the whole tail end of all the train of cars, so he'll have to work his way through a few tail enders as well before he gets back onto terms with the next car ahead of him on the racetrack, which will be Roberto Moreno.
So it's all changed again. I tell you what, you need sunglasses looking out the commentary box window now. It's changed completely. An amazing alteration in light and in weather conditions here this afternoon. And let's just hope that we can get things going as fast as possible. I want to see this race rejoined. Of course, we may go to the 2-hour time limit here today. Will that occur? Will that occur on a road course as well? Or will
Yes, it does occur on all road courses. You're absolutely right, Ben. We've got, what, 48 minutes to go before that happens, and 51 laps remain. Yes, you're right. We're going to have to keep a close eye on the time limit here, because even when they get back to green in these conditions, they're going to be lucky to be doing 1 minute 10-second laps. When they get into a full dry circuit, we're going to be lapping around about 1 minute or a little bit quicker than that. But the strategy in the final portion of this race really is going to be great fun to watch. And we've got a pretty good breeze now blowing off Lake Erie here. And I think with this sun out now, the humidity here is lowered because of that rain shower. It's going to dry out pretty fast indeed. It's going to be slippery. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be tough for these guys, but it's going to be fun for us to watch it.
Yeah, can't wait. I want them to get going. I don't want to sit around anymore. I want to get them out there, but of course it's got to be safe.
The pace car is into the pit lane, let me tell you.
Good, right. It looks like we're ready to go again, waiting for green flag, and Juan Montoya will lead them out of the chicane. Now, watch for some mistakes from somebody or other on this first lap of green on this wet track. It's going to be really hard and visibility tough as well. Montoya leads then.
Well, Robbie Gordon goes spinning off on speed there right in front of you. See him at the top of the screen, around like a top he went.
You saw him out the window, and then we just caught a glimpse of him on the monitor as well at the same time. He's on the big X there, right in the middle of the grass of the airfield. He's found his spot, and he's desperately trying to get back on track. Juan Montoya, though, has pulled away. A good restart once again from the Colombian, and there we can see it still. Oh, and PJ's lost it. Now, did they all manage to avoid him? Sure, yeah, there he goes. He goes off backwards. PJ lost it. Now, he wasn't running up front there, but that was a battle for position versus Tracy versus Ferron, battling for second place, and de Ferron's gone into second place. So a change of place there as Gilles de Ferron moves into second past Paul Tracy, but can he keep it all together up through turns 7 and 8? Tiptoe stuff up here.
And tyres here, Goodyear tyres of course on de Ferron's car, Firestone's on Paul Tracy's car. Fascinating battle there, but look, there is Juan Montoya, clear track ahead of him, a long gap already back to Gilles de Ferron up into second place.
Yes, but as you say, de Ferron on the Goodyears. Are we going to see there's a slight advantage for the Goodyear users? But Michael Andretti is on Firestones, remember, but he's fighting away past Paul Tracy as they come past us. So Michael Andretti is on a charge as well. Tracy coming back at him. Tracy comes back at Michael Andretti. Great racing here, swapping and charging and back again, and Tracy's gone into that third place again. Good stuff from the two experienced campaigners. Andretti runs wide, looking for some visibility as they go through the kink at turn number 2.
Great stuff here, really difficult conditions out there at the moment. It is very, very slippery indeed. And struggling for grip. There's the stall car of PJ Jones. He was off last time around. Just a local yellow there with a bit of luck. There is a safety truck waiting on the inside of that corner to come across. I'm looking out of the booth now, and it's coming across the track to try and tow PJ Jones' car out of the way. That's a good move by the kart officials.
Yeah, so hopefully that doesn't affect our racing for the moment. Gilles de Ferron not pulling away from Tracy, but he's made that move stick for the moment. Tracy beginning to come back at him a little bit, perhaps just taking it steady on that first lap after the restart, not wanting to take any risks. And Gilles de Ferron heads down towards turns 9 and 10, this fast chicane, but treading so carefully now, and on board with Michael. Now then, let's just watch this for a moment. Let's just see him working at the steering and see how you try to put down nearly 900 horsepower on a wet, slippery track like they find themselves on here, right behind Paul Tracy at the moment. Good view, although obscured somewhat by the drops of rain or water that's being sprayed around this track as Michael Andretti chases after Paul Tracy. Montoya has a 4.8 second lead, would you believe it, already after the restart. And Montoya once again just showing what ability he has, whether the track is wet, whether it's dry, whether it goes round in circles or it turns left and right. It doesn't seem to matter to Juan Montoya. He is just showing that he is a brilliant talent for not just the future, but for right now. And Montoya lapping consistently. 1 minute 14.2 last time around, was 0.4 of a second faster than Gilles de Ferron.
Yeah, there was a yellow flag out there because of that stalled car of PJ Jones last lap, but now that car is out of the way. It is a clear track now. The sun is beating down. It is drying pretty quickly, and we'll see as he flashes across the line this time. 1 minute 13.9. for Juan Montoya.
But de Ferran a bit quicker lap, 13.4 for de Ferran. So the gap stays at just over 4 seconds between first and second. Greg Moore is ahead of Patrick Carpentier there, you can see. So it's been the other way around most of this race.
As the track dries fast, use your slots at your discretion. And you tell us when you want dry tires.
So, and there's communication, in fact, with Patrick Carpentier, talking to him about, you must tell us when you want to put the slicks on. Lap times at the moment, 1 minute 13, and a spin for Fittipaldi. Christian Fittipaldi's lost it. And that's unfortunate. He usually goes so well in the rain, and I think he stalled it as well. He's waving for the marshals to help him, but of course they're not allowed to. It's only the safety cars that are allowed to come and help the cars and get them going again.
He has spun at the exit of turn 4, exactly the same place that PJ Jones went around in an identical car, or identical combinations. At least that is a Swift, Ford Cosworth and Firestone tyres. And the safety truck, let me tell you, the safety truck is out there to attend to Christian Fittipaldi.
Good, so again, no full course yellow as a result of that spin. Across the line goes Montoya again, and that is his 54th lap in the book. Now then, the times are coming down. Gilles de Ferran went and did a 1 minute 12.2 that lap, which was a second and a half faster than Montoya. Tracy Chasing also did a 12.9, as we see the two Forsyth cars coming through the gloom. Greg Moore ahead of Carpentier, running 5th and 6th places so far. Still certainly not fast enough for slick tyres. We would expect to see them getting down to about 1 minute 7, perhaps 1 minute 6 before they switch to the slick tyres. At the moment, as I say, they're doing 1 minute 12, so a little way off changing onto slicks, unless somebody wants to take a huge gamble. Perhaps some of those further down the field might decide to put on slicks early and just hope that they've then got that advantage a little bit before any of the leaders. But I think it'll be a lap or two before we see any of the leaders decide to make that stop. And with still around 40 laps to go here, when they time the stop's going to be critical on fuel as well. Now then, two blue cars, Greg Moore, Patrick Carpentier, might be teammates, but they're both chasing after the best position they can get here today. And Patrick Carpentier in particular, best ever result of 6th place. That came earlier this season, and he wants to find a way past his teammate Greg Moore. Doesn't want to take any chances though. We've seen enough of teammates taking each other off, and in fact Moore's got extremely wide, so Patrick didn't have to do anything special, although Moore has come out of that corner very quickly, so he might get a chance to get back at him into turn number 3. I think Carpentier's got it. No, Moore comes back. Always a racer, and Carpentier stays with him around the outside. Careful, boys, careful. Don't do anything silly now. And again, Carpentier and Greg Moore, wheel-to-wheel stuff between these two, and great racing between the teammates.
Tremendous stuff there. They've swapped places a couple of times since the caution came out, and that is right behind them there. That is Adrian Fernandez, who's getting his nose into the battle as well. Great stuff there, and look at the having to defend the position there from Adrian Fernandez. You can see now that track beginning to dry out through that section, but now back onto the concrete here. Very, very slippery still in turn 8.
Yeah, a nightmare in a few places, and you've really got to have total awareness of where the slippery patches are. Fittipaldi's been push-started, and as you can see, is back in at the race once again. And meanwhile, Carpentier leading this little gaggle, so he's now 5th. Greg Moore 6th, Adrian Fernandez 7th, and right behind him as well is Alonso Jr. Well, not right behind, but he's not far. Look at Fernandez. Fernandez putting the attack on Greg Moore here. Now, this was where Greg Moore went too deep on the last lap, and again, Greg Moore goes too deep into turn number 1, and he loses the place to Adrian Fernandez. So Fernandez moves up into 6th, and Greg Moore just cannot get that car slowed down for turn 1.
Strange, isn't it? Two bad mistakes there by Greg Moore. And meanwhile, it's a great battle. There is Alonso Jr., there is Scott Pruitt, and now Moore back onto the track there. He is now back in 9th position.
Yeah, dreadful from Greg Moore. It really lost on a huge number of places. Still features in the championship battle, of course. He was a championship leader in the early part of this season. Has had a few disappointing runs, but still running in 4th place in the series on 69 points. And he needs to try and get some of those places back. Look at de Ferran. Look how close Gilles de Ferran is to the back of Juan Montoya. Now then, this is really building up beautifully. Juan Montoya leading this race basically from the start. Had to lift off a bit there through the chicane. Now that might give Gilles de Ferran an opportunity down to turn number 1. He goes down the inside. He goes for the move. Montoya sensibly doesn't try and battle it too hard. And Montoya sliding around as he tries to grab the next gear. Too much wheel spin, and Gilles de Ferran's taken the lead.
Tremendous move there by Gilles de Ferran, and the Goodyear tyres in drying conditions are obviously absolutely magnificent. Gilles de Ferran, he is so pumped up. That wind lock, look at that standing water there on the outside of the corner. His that victory 1 week ago in Poland, it's really given his confidence that boost he needs. He's been quick all weekend, and look at him now. He's trying to put some gap between himself and one Montoya.
Great stuff. What a tremendous race this is building into, but the track is drying that little bit again, and they will have to put slicks on at some point. And as we saw in the earlier part of this race, Montoya seemed to have the edge on the dry track. You can see his car. Look at the car control. Look at the sliding of Montoya as he tries to stay with de Ferran, but it definitely looks as though de Ferran has a little bit of a grip advantage in these conditions on the Goodyears. Goodyear broke that run of wins from Firestone last weekend in Portland, and now they seem to have a tyre that, in these particular conditions, does have the edge over the Firestone tyre. The gap at the end of that lap, 2.3 seconds, and he only overtook 1 lap ago.
Yeah, that is impressive indeed, and it really is drying out. Look how dry the track is becoming.
It is behind. There's a battle going on between Tracy and Andretti. There was just under a second between them as they went across the line last time. There are a few cars, also lapped cars in that battle. Alonso Jr., look, and Fernandez. Alonso's got past Fernandez, but Fernandez got into a big twitch just there. Managed to save it, but Alonso Jr. therefore moved up into 6th place. And in spite of making that pit stop earlier for a change of visor, he has made up incredibly quickly that ground. He's almost back to where he was before the pit stop. And what tyres is he using?
Goodyear tyres, absolutely right. And of course, you know, this huge battle between Goodyear and Firestone, their bases, of course, are in Akron, Ohio, only 20 miles or so from here to the south. There's a lot of people here from both tyre companies, and they've both had an opportunity to cheer so far this weekend. Who will have the last cheer?
Yeah, that's right, because the thing, it might change again as the track dries out that little bit more. Sun is still shining. In spite of the pictures that make it look a bit gloomy on screen, I can tell you that it's actually quite bright here, and the track getting that bit drier every lap. Gilles de Ferran, a 1 minute 12.4, but Montoya, 1 minute 15, and look at Tracy and Andretti. Look at them, absolutely together again. Michael Andretti looking to try and find a little bit more traction out of turn 1, but not quite enough to do that. The cars on the Firestones, in fact, if anything, are losing a bit of pace. Montoya's last lap was a 1 minute 15.2. It gives me the idea that the tyres are really going off, and they're looking for puddles already to try and cool those wets down as much as possible. Great stuff, and this battle's continuing nicely.
Yeah, it is. It's great stuff. Look at him sliding through there, and Tracy and Andretti very close together, and behind them is the lap car of PJ Jones. But let me just say also, Roberto Moreno had a little off here in front of the pits in turn 10, went a bit wide onto the grass. He is in 10th place.
Well, he's still out there, that's the good thing. He's survived at the moment. Still very wet up there at turn number 8.
Robbie Gordon.
Yeah. Robbie Gordon's just spun right in front of us, right in front of our commentary box. Gets a huge cheer from the crowd as he rejoins. You're watching Juan Montoya, though, and Montoya is coming under increasing pressure from Paul Tracy in 3rd and Michael Andretti in 4th position. What a tremendous race this is turning into. And again, Andretti looking for a way of lining up Paul Tracy. Montoya's car a little bit all over the place. Tracy was a bit wide in there. Now Andretti has a chance to get alongside, but not quite enough on the exit of turn 1. Goes wide, looking for the visibility, and again, not quite enough to approach Tracy on turn number 3. Montoya, though, that car is sliding around all over the place. Now, Carpentier is in, and he is on slick tyres. So, the first change to slick tyres, Patrick Carpentier. Let's go down to the pits and hear from Derek Walker.
He'll will make that call. He can tell what the track conditions are like. We'll watch what everybody else is doing, but right now we're the quickest car on the racetrack, so we're going to sit tight for a minute.
How many lap warning do you think does he have to give you?
Oh, he can pretty well call it just off the last turn. We're ready either way, so stop him.
You've done a lot of wet weather testing for Goodyear. Is it the durability that's helping you, or the Firestone's wearing out, you think?
Well, they certainly look like they're falling off the pace.
Tracy's gone past Montoya, and he's gone through, and a big cheer from the crowd as they come past our commentary vantage point, and Andretti's going to get a run on Montoya as well. Andretti down the inside of Juan Montoya. Montoya sliding all over the place. He's got no grip at all. You can see that car moving around so much, and surely they've got to get him in and put him on slick tyres on the exit of the corner. Again, he takes the inside line. Andretti takes the wide outside line, and Montoya's got a chance to come back at him. But Andretti shuts the door. Again, good intelligent driving. Montoya skates a little bit wide in the midsection of the track, and Fernandez is in for slicks now. So it is time, and Montoya has been called in for the end of this lap. So we will see him come in at the end of this lap as Fernandez exits safely, and Andretti continues to fight the wheel as he tries to keep control of the Swift chassis. Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti still battling for second now, because Montoya, you can see how far Montoya's dropped back. Gilles de Ferran has come into the pits meanwhile. Gilles de Ferran, race leader, has come into the pits. He has chosen this point. He's got a 10-second advantage coming into the pits this time. Now then, a quick change required here, and we heard from Derek Walker that Gilles de Ferran was making the choice on when to come on for slicks. He's made that choice, and he's in. Now, Montoya is also in the pits. Same time, and away he goes. Montoya into his pit box just as Gilles de Ferran leaves his pit box. So, a quick stop required from the Ganassi team. But what if Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti? They have stayed out. So Tracy and Andretti have stayed out. Montoya comes back out on slicks. And remember, these are not preheated slicks. These are cold slicks. And they are going to be horrible, horrible on a wet track like this. So just watch out for cars falling off all over the place as they try to get their tyres up to temperature.
Yeah, you know, unlike in Formula One, of course, tyre heaters are not allowed in the FedEx Championship Series. So they come out there on very, very cold tyres indeed. It's going to be a really tough couple of laps for these guys as they build some heat into those tyres.
Now then, are either of these two coming in? It looks as though Tracy's coming in, but Michael stays out. Michael, well, he is going quickly still at the moment. I have to say that he's still going very quickly, and the car looks stable. Looks as though he's looked after the tyres a bit more.
Now,
Tracy, though,
right on the mark now.
into the pits. Let's listen on the radio.
Wet in the pit here, a little wet.
Now then, let's see if they can get a good clean stop for Paul Tracy. Michael Andretti, race
Wheels
leader. There's a problem. It's not refueling properly. And you heard the exclamation from Barry Green during that. Couldn't believe it. The fuel wasn't going in properly, so that was a slow stop from Paul Tracy. Meanwhile, in the pits, Christian Fittipaldi, and behind him, Roberto Moreno. Moreno had that moment a few laps ago, still survives. Now then, is Michael going to come in? Last lap was a 1 minute 12.5, and that's still a lot faster than anybody has shown they can do on slicks as yet, but nobody's really had a chance to put in a complete lap. Well, Pontier has, that's interesting, and Fernandez. Yes, Fernandez has done a 1 minute 10 on slicks, so slicks are faster, and in comes Michael. So he has decided it's time to do it.
That's right. They were the first two to come in for slick tyres, so they've got their tyres up to temperature now and turning some faster laps than those on slick tyres. But here is Michael Andretti. There is the crew ready for the pit stop.
Slow down, man. Hold it down. All right. Reset the fuel meter. Reset the fuel meter. It's going to be pretty quick. There's only about 15 gallons. Okay, hold on. Hold it. Stay there. Stay there. Hold it. Hold it. Okay, go. Go, go, go.
Good stop there for the Newman Haas crew. And in terms of laps to go, there's 36, but it's half an hour of running. They should be all right to make it through to the end on that one tank full.
And Gilles de Ferran has gone through into the lead. So there is Gilles de Ferran going out of the, well, here is Gilles de Ferran actually coming out of the into the frame. Now there is the race leader, Gilles de Ferran. Michael Andretti. Oh!
Big
Adrian Fernandez.
Adrian Fernandez has hit the wall at that turn 8 again. It's claimed another victim. The same corner that claimed Montoya in practice, claimed Dario Franchitti in practice, and we saw a number of cars go off there in the wet earlier on in the race, and now it's Adrian Fernandez. So yellow is out. Yellow flag for everybody. I don't think that that's going to affect any of the front runners that much, because everybody has already made their stop. Now, this was slightly earlier, a spin of Gualter Sales, which almost tangled up one of the Forsyth cars, Greg Moore, I think it was. So Greg Moore managed to slip through there safely and escape when Sales lost it. But what about Adrian Fernandez? Hopefully we might get a chance to see exactly the accident that occurred to him. Bit of tyre rubber on the front of Greg Moore's car there. Now, let's see, we have Adrian Fernandez's car down there. That's obviously out of action. Let's see if we got a replay. Down the inside of PJ Jones through turn number 7, and then right up behind Patrick Carpentier. Now, remember, Fernandez on slicks. Fernandez on slick tyres. It is still damp up there. What happened? Let's see. I think, yeah, he just lost it. Just lost it on the wet.
Yeah, that concrete there, you come back onto that change of surface there, onto the concrete. Here's the wall cam here, we'll have a good view of it, and you can see there, around she goes. He gets on the power, squeezes on the power coming through the corner, but not gently enough, and around she goes and heavily into the wall. Shame for Adrian Fernandez, another good run going. He was looking at another top 5 finish. There is Greg Moore, though, out of the race.
Yeah, Greg Moore, another one who was looking to score points out of the race. That rubber on the tyre rubber on the nose cone, but it looks as though the problem is around the back end of the car. And we'll try and find out what has happened to Greg Moore, but he is another retirement. So we're losing a whole number of cars here. De Ferran is race leader. Montoya is 2nd, Andretti 3rd, Tracy 4th, Unser 5th, and Carpentier is 6th. Well, there's Adrian Fernandez being brought back on a golf cart from that turn 8 area. It's a long walk if you walk all the way back down to the pit lane from there, and thankfully he's got a lift, and it's going to take a little while. A bit of tyre wall damage up at that end of the circuit, but what an amazing race we're enjoying here. And of course, everybody, all the front runners now are on slick tyres. They have refueled, and this is basically going to be a flat-out run now to the checkered flag.
It certainly is, and we've had 1 hour 33 minutes of the race, so 27 minutes remaining, 35 laps still to be completed, but we will not be able, I believe, to go the distance in terms of laps completed, so it will become a timed race, 2-hour time limit, 6 minutes remaining in this race. It'll be several laps before we go back to green, so hard to hazard a guess how many laps of green flag wheel racing we will have. But what we can tell you for sure is that fuel will not be an issue. Turn up the wick as fast as you can go, boys, and it should be a pretty exciting end of the race, I believe.
Yes, I think so. Now, I suppose if we look at how performance has gone this weekend in terms of practice and qualifying, there hasn't been a great deal to choose between De Ferran and Montoya. They battled for pole position. Montoya won pole, but De Ferran felt that he had more from the car. There was a capability of getting more out of the car. A bit of traffic got in the way, and so De Ferran was actually a little disappointed not to get the pole. So I think there's no doubt that the Walker Racing car is as quick as the Ganassi car, and every prospect here of a real battle between the two of them.
Absolutely right, and we know from Juan Montoya's past this season as a rookie driver, he holds nothing back whatsoever. He will be absolutely flat out, and this is going to be a fascinating contest in these final, well, 25 minutes, let's say, of this race.
Michael Andretti will be there as well. He lies in 3rd position. A great overhead view, and the cloud has lifted over the centre of Cleveland City, and thankfully we've got dry track for the rest of the race. The cars are going to get the one finger this time by, just one more lap behind the pace car, and then they will be let loose on a track which, as you can see, has a very much a dry line. But, as we saw a few moments ago, in a few places it's still damp. Adrian Fernandez was caught out, for example. Still a couple of areas like that. You can see, though, tremendous crowd still lining in the grandstands there. They haven't disappeared, they haven't gone home, in spite of the tricky conditions. And I think they're quite right, because the race we're about to see unfold before us should be a real cracker. Just looking at the pit-in, pit-out there on those last pit stops. Montoya coming in, leading... Well, in fact, De Ferran was actually in front at that point. De Ferran gaining the advantage. He put the slicks on at a very good time indeed. And really the graphic not really showing the change of position, because Gilles De Ferran had taken the lead on the wet tyres and really chose the right moment to put the slicks on. But of course, at that point, it then went yellow as a result of Adrian Fernandez's crash. Watch out for Paul Tracy. He runs in 4th position. Alonso Jr. running in 5th position. So we've got some great experience up there. Brilliant talent, of course, in the hands of Juan Montoya, this young sensation who's come into the championship, replacing Alex Zanardi in the number 4 Ganassi car, and not quite swept all before him, but very nearly. 3 wins in a row from Long Beach, Nazareth and Rio. Last few races haven't gone quite so well for him, but he was in a position to win in Milwaukee. Fuel didn't quite work out for them there. Finished second in Portland last week, and he's really run up front in every single race we've had.
Yeah, just absolutely magnificent, really. He had that one real mistake, perhaps, in Motegi. That was in practice, however, when he hit Michael Andretti there, took them both into the wall, earned himself some stern words there from a bunch of people, including his race engineer, Maurice Nunn. But he's put that well behind him. That didn't faze him at all. And he's been, as you say, super quick in every type of conditions there. And look there, that's the tricky bit of this racetrack at the moment. Turn 8, you can see those puddles there on the outside of the corner. And that is the only part of the track, I believe, that hasn't dried properly. And that, as one Montoya said earlier on in the show, is the most difficult part of this racetrack, even when it's dry.
Yeah, and it has a wall to hit. Now, here we go. We're getting ready to go green. De Ferran gets on it once again. Look at the restart from Montoya. Brilliant. He is so quick on these restarts, and Montoya's going for it, as you would expect. Montoya goes for it down the inside into turn 1, but has he carried too much speed in? Perfectly judged, but De Ferran on the exit tries to get him on the way out of turn 1, and they are side by side as they accelerate through the kink up towards turn 3, and a restart again from Juan Montoya that would make you think that he's been doing rolling starts throughout his career instead of standing starts in Formula 3000 over the last few years. Absolutely brilliant, couldn't have done any better, and now Gilles de Ferran's got to watch out because Michael Andretti's right behind.
And you know, we saw last week in Portland, the first couple of laps of green when the tyres are not up to temperature is a problem for the Goodyear runners. It was for Gilles de Ferran last week, and apparently so here right now as well. Look at Michael Andretti sliding there, and there goes Paul Tracy taking full advantage. Great move by Paul Tracy. Oh, sliding wide there.
Well, this is great. Look at that. Michael gets back at Paul Tracy. Tracy was too wide. He got on the slippery stuff, and Michael comes back at him again. Now Tracy has a think about it into turn 9, but Alonso Jr. right behind him will also be looking for an opportunity. Montoya goes across the line as race leader. Gilles de Ferran crosses 2.4 seconds behind in second. Then it's Michael and Robbie Gordon trying to get past Alonso Jr., and that's for position. Robbie is flying here today, and Robbie Gordon has just moved up into 5th position in that Toyota-powered Reynard.
Brilliant drive by Robbie Gordon. He's had a couple of spins here. There, though, there being right behind him is Alonso Jr. trying to get that place back again. Brilliant restart there by Robbie Gordon. And now what can Alonso Jr. do? He has not been competitive this season. He in the Lola chassis this weekend. This is what, the 3rd or 4th race he has run the Lola. And finally, they have a pretty good handle on that car. It's working a lot better for him than it was the first few times that they ran it. What can he do?
I said Robbie was in a Reynard. Of course, he's in a Swift now because he changed around a few races ago. So that's the yellow and blue car there. Robbie Gordon in the Toyota-powered Swift, running extremely competitively at the moment, and obviously enjoying these conditions. In fact, Robbie's had some good runs here in the past at the Cleveland track, and now he's down the inside of Tracy. Oh, and he's made the move beautifully. Beautiful move from Robbie Gordon, and that puts him up into 4th position now. Now, can Tracy come back at him into turn 1? I don't think so. Not quite close enough. Robbie defending into turn 1, but may have taken too much speed in. Gets on the power, accelerates cleanly, and Tracy gets back alongside it. This is racing. This is motorsport at its best. And Tracy now, I think, oh no, not quite. Gordon takes the wide line in, and they just both sneak through turn 3 with Gordon still ahead in the battle.
Brilliant stuff. This is wonderful. This is what Champ Car racing is all about. Wheel-to-wheel action, no quarter, arm or given. Great no-holds-barred racing. Fabulous to watch the crowd here on its feet, cheering away in the grandstands. Great stuff.
Well, Montoya has built up a 4.2-second lead, so perhaps again, as you say, those Firestones working better than the Goodyears in these conditions. We saw it the other way around in the damp conditions. Now perhaps Firestone, the advantage swings back to them, and Michael Andretti bearing down on De Ferran. Let's go down to the pit lane and hear from Greg Moore.
We had some kind of exhaust problem where we broke a header or something like that, and you know, we were, you know, it's unfortunate, but you know, I guess this wasn't our day today. We were really fast laps there in the dry, and then it started to rain, and you know, we just kind of lost it, and it was, you know, it's disappointing we had something like that, because if we kept going, we would have burnt the car down, so it's better to park the car and you know, go into Elkhart Lake where we know we got a good shot of winning.
Time to move on to the next race.
Now look at this, Brian Herta's got up the inside of Alonso Jr. Herta battling for position as well, fast in practice, fast in qualifying. Herta has just moved up into 6th place, always goes well at this Cleveland track. He's never won it, but he's been second here, and he just seems to love the combination of turns and bumps, gets the setup of the car just to his liking, and he's just found his way past Little Al.
Started 4th, of course, did Brian Herta, had that spin right at the very start of the race, and really has done nothing up until these last few laps. He was way in midfield there, could not find a way past Mamo Gidley all the way through the first stint of the race, and now he's come alive. Now is when it counts. The nitty-gritty we're getting down to now, 18 minutes to go in this race, and Brian Herta has a sniff at least of a podium finish, maybe.
But nobody seems to be able to match Juan Montoya. His last lap, a 1 minute 4.5, and the next best, a 1 minute 5.1, 6/10 of a second faster than anybody else at this point as the leaders come through. And Montoya is just streaking away up front again. It's incredible to watch, but here's Herta. Brian Herta up the inside of Paul Tracy into turn 3, side by side. Oh, almost contact between them. Gets it crossed up, gets it back again. Still side by side as they head up towards turn 5. Herta's got the inside. Tracy will try to go around the outside. Who is going to get in front? Herta just sneaks in front, but Tracy now comes back to the outside. This is fabulous racing, and just what we want to see here at Cleveland. We've seen it before, and we're seeing it to its best here this afternoon as Herta moves into 5th.
This is wonderful. This is why we love this sport. Tremendous action there down the field. Might not be for the lead. It was, however, for 5th place at that stage. Robbie Gordon is coming. There he goes, Robbie Gordon. You can see him flash through the picture. There is Brian Herta now, up into 5th position, having made the restart in 8th.
Just to tell you, in the dry, the conditions they're in now, those corners that they were side by side at, they're doing virtually 120 miles an hour through those sequence of corners, and yet they were side by side, wheel to wheel, separated by inches. That takes judgment, that takes skill, and it takes bravery too. And Herta and Tracy, brilliant racing on the limit there between the two of them. Tracy finds himself pushed back to 6th position now as Montoya leads. It's de Ferran 2nd, dropping away a bit. Andretti in 3rd. Gordon in a fabulous 4th position. Brilliant drive from Robbie Gordon today. 5th place for Herta now. Tracy in 6th, then Ansa in 7th place with Carpentier 8th, Moreno in 9th, and then Mimo Gidley, the new man at Walker Racing, who's come in to join Gilles de Ferran. He replaces the Japanese driver Naoki Hattori. Oh, look at the amount of muck being thrown up there at turn 8. But Mimo Gidley, the new boy, up in 10th place, and that deserves a mention, that's for sure.
Yeah, very good drive there by Mimo. He, of course, he has a little bit of Formula 3 experience in Europe. He did a race at Donington Park in '95, that was, and really putting that to good use. He loves fast corners, and this track here abounds with fast corners. So Mimo taking advantage of that, doing a good one. He is a lap down, but he is in 10th place ahead of a lot of very accomplished drivers. A good effort for his 2nd Champ Car start.
They're about 4 seconds off a good, perfectly dry track time at the moment. They were doing 59s earlier on in the race when it was fully dry. They're doing 63.5 at the moment, so still damp patches, still not a fully dry track. But let me tell you that Juan Montoya is still pulling away. His advantage now is 8.6 seconds. We have 15 minutes of racing to go here if we go to our limit, which it looks like it probably will. And that means around 15 laps to go of this 2-mile Cleveland-Burt Lakefront Airport circuit. Montoya very much in charge so far. Let's just ride on board, enjoy this Colombian at work at the wheel of his target Chip Ganassi Reynard. Through turns 3 and 4, you see how the car bucks and weaves over the bumps there as they come off that runway onto the taxiway, really knocking the car about, knocking the drivers about as well. Dario Franchitti said he was going to have to go and see the dentist after this weekend. Well, of course, his race didn't last probably long enough for him to have to do that. But these guys are pushing very, very hard indeed, and still have to be careful over the bumps, particularly on the more slippery sections. There you can see de Ferran and Andretti. Still a good battle there between them for 2nd and 3rd places. Oh, slide from Andretti. Robbie Gordon still in 4th, but you can see it's quite a big gap. We can't see him in that shot at the moment. So Robbie Gordon is 6 seconds behind Michael Andretti.
There is Juan Montoya that gets cleanly past Walter Salas, who is in 12th place in the Eagle Toyota, just has gone 2 laps down. This, though, the battle for second place. And Gilles de Ferran beginning to come under pressure from Michael Andretti.
Yes, it's stayed fairly constant over the last few laps, but Michael perhaps now beginning to pick up the pace just a little bit more. Meanwhile, from other battles going on, look at this lot. This is great stuff. Gordon versus Herta, and Gordon now can't seem to match the pace now that the track is drying out, and he can't hold off either of them. Herta, Tracy goes through as well. I wondered for a moment whether Gordon was going to shut the door completely on Tracy, but he didn't, and you can see Gordon's car really does not look so good in these conditions as it did when it was more slippery. Alonso Jr. goes through as well, and suddenly, from being a hero, running in 4th position, Robbie Gordon, the 30-year-old who's set up his own team this year, is now dropping back down the order, and the next one to go past him will be Patrick Carpentier.
But really did take advantage of those difficult conditions there. Tremendous car control by Robbie Gordon. Now, as the track is drying out, he's still struggling for a proper step on that car. Plus, perhaps the Toyota doesn't have quite the same horsepower as the other big 3 in this series. They're certainly making good strides, though. But now slipping back down the order, and actually passed there by Patrick Carpentier. But still, a very good run for Robbie Gordon.
A 1 minute 2.7 for Juan Montoya last lap around. A 1 minute 2.5 for Gilles de Ferran. So de Ferran matching Montoya on that last lap. But what I want to see now is what sort of times Herta is going to be able to do. Last lap wasn't particularly quick because they were finding a way past Robbie Gordon. But let's keep an eye next time around on the lap times that Brian Herta can achieve. Very fast here in practice throughout the weekend. He's now got some clear space in front of him. And I wonder if he's going to be able to match the times that are being set by Montoya and de Ferran up front, and perhaps do something about closing the gap between himself and Michael Andretti. We said that it is some 9 seconds, so it's unlikely he's really going to be able to do a great deal about getting onto the podium. 4th place at the moment for the Shell car. Paul Tracy right behind him.
Michael Andretti has a problem. I don't know whether he spun. I think he might have spun, actually. There's grass all over the track on the exit of the chicane. I think he straight-lined it. There is Michael Andretti on the right side of the racetrack. He's lost a lot of ground. There's Brian Herta and Paul Tracy and Alonso Jr. closing in now. Michael Andretti straight-lined the chicane, and Gordon, meanwhile, is in the pits.
Right, so Gordon's come in, it's all changed again. I said it was 9 seconds between this man, Andretti, and Herta. Well, you can see it certainly isn't 9 seconds now. As they went across the line that time, it was only a couple of seconds. And report of possible gear change problems for Michael Andretti, which may have encouraged him or made him go across the chicane. Perhaps if he couldn't change down properly, he wouldn't have had the engine braking to help him going into the corner as Robbie Gordon comes back out onto the circuit from his pit stop. But Michael Andretti, perhaps in trouble with the gear shift problem. Now that he's got going again, he seems to be running okay as he comes up to lap Walter Salas, with Brian Herta and that other group with Paul Tracy and Alonso Jr. not far behind. We're with our leader now, who's got some traffic to deal with, and you can see for yourself how dry the track is in quite a few places. Going past Max Papis at that point, Max running down in 15th place. Oh, and now up behind PJ Jones, we saw spinning earlier in this race. But Montoya has a 7-second advantage. He does not need to take too many risks here. He gets past PJ quite easily and accelerates up through turn 6 and the top end of the track. Maintaining that advantage now is what it's all about. And we're looking at 10 minutes to go. So that'll be just under 10 laps, some 9 laps perhaps of racing still to go, and it looks as though Juan Montoya is all set for his 4th win of the season, but the other positions, I think, are still very much up for grabs, as Andretti has just managed to get away a bit from Herta. Herta still under pressure from Tracy, and Alonso Jr. there in the Lola, ready to pick up the pieces, should anybody get it wrong in front of him. Reports that Robbie Gordon had a tyre go down, that's why he lost so much time. That's unfortunate, because if that tyre had stayed with him, stayed up, he could well have had his best result of the season. Meanwhile, just keep an eye on this little group here. Tracy, quite late looking at the inside. It wasn't really an attempt to overtake, I think more an attempt to disrupt Herta's concentration more than anything else. Little Al, Alonso Jr. has often gone well here. Last year he ran in second. In fact, Tracy and Unser came together here last year, not out on the track, actually in the pit lane. It was a fairly silly incident, and Paul Tracy got himself some trouble for it.
Yeah, he did, quite rightly so. As you say, very silly accident. They look really under pressure now from Alonso Jr. Not a great deal of love lost between these two former teammates, as you say, and Tracy will not want to lose a place to a Marlboro Team Penske driver. It was a couple of years ago in '97 that Tracy won 3 races for Marlboro Team Penske. End of the season, promptly got fired. He picked up this ride with Team Cool Green. He had his first win for the team just a few weeks ago in Milwaukee. He's not going to win this race, I don't think, but he is on for a top 5 finish, and he wants to stay ahead of Alonso Jr.
Watch out for Carpentier as well. He's behind Alonso Jr. He's closed up a bit over the last lap or so. So we now have 4 cars battling over 4th position. Now, I believe down in the pit lane, we've managed to catch up with Adrian Fernandez.
Late rain victim out there, correct?
Yeah, we were doing pretty good now with the dry tires, and you know, it wasn't completely dry, but it was pretty good. And unfortunately, I just dropped a wheel where it was a little bit wet into, I think, inside of turn 8. And that was it. That put me into the wall.
You had a great run going up until point.
Exactly. No, we were running strongly, and you know, it's what it takes. You need to finish to be able to get some points. So this time didn't work, but next time we'll get him.
Now he's sitting in the pits, guys.
Back with Juan Montoya as he tries to deal with some traffic. Gordon has back out in front there. You can see that was Gordon in front, and somebody else, I couldn't quite spot who that was, who locked up big time going down into turn 1. It's is it Luis Garcia? It may well be Luis Garcia, but we'll check on that in a moment. Luis Garcia still running in this race, 14th position for the rookie. Won the Indy Lights race here last year, but has had virtually no testing in the Champ car, so not doing a bad job just to stay out there, I have to say.
That's very true, and there's Juan Montoya. He's had this traffic to deal with, and the gap from himself back to the second place car of Gilles Ferrand, who has to deal now with that traffic. There is BJ Jones in front of him. The gap, though, has come down for over 8 seconds to less than 4. So I think it's just a question of Montoya having to work his way through the traffic, and as I say, De Ferrand will now have that same, there you see the gap coming down, and last time around it was less than that. It was 3.7 seconds on lap 82. So I don't know, I think it's a still pretty tall order for De Ferrand, but certainly he is trying hard, and he wants past BJ Jones, and BJ not going to let him through this time.
Gilles de Ferrand seems to be battling with that number 4 Ganassi car a number of times here at Cleveland. Usually it's been Alex Zanardi at the wheel. On this occasion, it's Juan Montoya, and de Ferrand gets down the inside of BJ Jones, no problem. The gap went up again on that last lap because Gilles de Ferrand caught the traffic, and it's back out to 5.9 seconds. Herta comes through, still hounded by Paul Tracy. Where's Alonso Jr.? Well, he's still there, but he's dropped a few seconds behind these two. Don't quite know what happened on that lap because he was right behind Tracy, but perhaps Alonso Jr. made a mistake somewhere, and that's given Tracy perhaps a bit more opportunity now to put a move on Herta, because when you've got somebody right behind you, you don't want to take too many risks in passing the car ahead in case you lose 2 places. Now, perhaps Tracy will have an opportunity to attack Herta a little more. Now, we reckon we've got some 5 laps to go until the 2-hour limit, until the checkered flag comes out here at Cleveland. Juan Montoya looking for win number 4. And there he is, crossed the line again. That is 84 laps completed. We look back to see Gilles de Ferrand crossing the line now, and the gap's gone up again because of this traffic, back up to 7 seconds between Montoya and de Ferrand as Michael Andretti goes through in 3rd. There is Brian Herta in 4th place, and still Paul Tracy in 5th behind him. He's going to have to think of something new because he's running out of time to find a way past the shell car of Brian Herta. Amazing change in conditions we've seen here this afternoon. Again, the sun is shining, a bit more cloud around, perhaps darkening up, perhaps the rain coming in later on this afternoon, but we're going to get dry track all the way to the end of this race, I think, as Tracy continues the chase of Brian Herta. In terms of the championship, of course, what we're seeing here today is a major move ahead again for Juan Montoya. His main rival, Dario Franchitti, went out of this race with a throttle cable problem, so that really affected his hopes. 3rd place in the championship, Gilles de Ferrand, well, he's going to stay in touch because he's going to finish in 2nd place here today, and a possibility of going just ahead of Franchitti in the points. And a spin for somebody. Try and spot who that was. think it was somebody further down the order who suffered a spin. No major problems for our leaders, as Robbie Gordon, with a tyre now in good shape, is managing to run virtually the same pace as the race leaders Montoya and De Ferran. Fastest man on circuit at the moment, well, last time around, in fact, it was Alonso Jr., believe it or not. 6th place for him at the moment, but a 1 minute 1.61 on that last lap. Right out to the wall on the exit of turn 8, still using every inch of the space available. But I think Gilles de Ferran is going to have to accept second place on this occasion, up behind the lapped car of Richie Hearn at the moment. That's the red car, Richie Hearn, not the race leader, Juan Montoya. And Richie Hearn having another fairly difficult time, but he's up at the points this time, so that's good news. Richie Hearn in 10th. Robbie Gordon just locking up the right front brake into turn 1. Look at all this. Tracy has got ahead of Herta. Tracy's got ahead of Herta. Unser's in there. Carpentier trying to get past as well. So I don't know where that happened, but somewhere Paul Tracy at last, and now Unser's got past Herta.
Yeah, Herta seemed to be slow coming off the final corner here. Not quite sure, maybe he just made a mistake there, but he gets back alongside and inside Alonso Jr., but slides wide again, and Unser retakes the position.
Yeah, once again, you see the crossover there as they go through the right and then the left. If you go into that too quick, then you pay the penalty on the next corner. And Carpentier's there, so is Moreno. Moreno running in 8th place in the Motorola car. He's a feature here in this battle as well. So it's still all changing. We have just over 2 minutes of racing still to go, and they will get the white flag next time by, we're hearing. So we will watch out for that. We're getting towards the end of this race. Tracy has got himself into 4th position. Herta has dropped back a little bit. But what about this man? Juan Montoya, cruising now. He has a 9.6 second advantage. A fantastic drive once again from this young man. Just 23 years old. It's his 9th Champ Car start, and he's heading for his 4th victory. Very nearly 50% record. What an amazing achievement for Juan Montoya. Joining the top team in the series. They've won the championship the last 3 years in a row. But Juan Montoya has been a real find this year, moving from Formula 3000 to Champ Car racing. And what can you say about it?
Yeah, what can you say? I mean, everybody knew the guy was going to be fast. Everybody knew he was good. But this good? I don't know. He didn't get the white flag that time round, so we still have, a little bit over 1 minute to go there, so we'll get the right flag next time past. And you have 2 more laps to complete now, Juan Montoya. So there he goes. But he has just been absolutely flawless this weekend, where one crash, I guess, on Friday morning, just trying to find the limit of the car, did that. And as you said at the beginning of the show, turn 8, very, very tricky. Yesterday I hit the wall, today I almost hit the wall, but I didn't. And as you said, is the important thing. He didn't hit the wall. He hasn't hit anything this afternoon. Flawless drive, great performance, and as you say, wonderfully looking for his 4th victory.
4th win in 9 outings. It is an incredible achievement for this young man, and the battles are still going on behind him. And in fact, there you can see Alonso Jr. at the head of this gaggle now, ahead of Brian Herta, Patrick Carpentier. Watch out for Carpentier. He's in 7th place, looking to just gain another place or 2 before the checkered flag comes out. And 6th place is his best ever finish, so he's only just 1 off that at the moment. And the white flag comes out this time. So the last 2 miles for Juan Montoya. And he said after the first day of practice here, he said, I think I found a new favourite racetrack. Well, I think he's going to confirm that here this afternoon. He has driven superbly in all kinds of conditions. Under pressure, he was passed by Gilles de Ferran at one stage when the car wasn't going so well, when the tyres had lost grip. But he didn't panic, he didn't throw it in the wall, he didn't crash into de Ferran, he just kept his cool and waited until it came back to him. And when the track dried out and they put the slicks back on this car, he was right there again. The restart was perfect, he judged it absolutely right, got past Gilles de Ferran on the run to the first corner, made it look all so easy. You wouldn't think that he's only done 9 of these races.
And that's the thing that has impressed his race engineer, Maurice Nunn, more than anything else. I mean, he knows Montoya's, he knows his capabilities, but really shines is on the restarts. He gets the most out of the tyre right away.
And he comes across the line to take his 4th win of the year. And Chip Ganassi talking to him on the radio. What an achievement for Juan Montoya on one of the most demanding tracks of the schedule in some of the most difficult conditions we've seen for several years in Champ Car racing. The concentration was there. He didn't make any mistakes. Montoya the winner, De Ferran second, and Andretti in third. Let's take a look at the results then. Behind those three, Tracy fourth, Alonso Jr. great fifth, Brian Herter in sixth place, then seventh for Patrick Carpentier, ahead of Roberto Moreno. Points again for Moreno every time that he subbed for Blundell. Gordon ninth, Hearn 10th, Mimo Gidley in a fine 11th, and in 12th place with the final point was Christian Fittipaldi. Congratulations to the other finishers. There were so many who didn't quite make it to the end. But for Juan Montoya today, he has come out on top of the pile. Juan Montoya, the star from Cleveland.
Kart in Sunday Thunder.